Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Roundtable podcast. This is the podcast where we break down everything from the feeds. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Melissa Deni. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm good. This is a very, very exciting week because we've got the finale coming up, and this is this is at least our last roundtable during this season. So, that's very exciting. Crazy week.
Very exciting stuff. Also with me today, Brent Walgamon. How you doing, Brent?
I'm good. I don't know if you guys heard me on Monday night, but I sounded terrible because my original computer has decided to just go kaput. So now I'm on a laptop PC, which I haven't been on a PC with you guys like ever. So I feel naked, Taran, I must say.
He's very out of his comfort zone here.
I'm very out of my comfort zone, yes.
Yes, we have been live here every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern to argue about what's been happening on the Big Brother Canada live feeds for the 6th season of the show. And this is our final LFC Roundtable podcast of the season. During the season, as Melissa mentions, we might do some kind of wrap-up afterward. You never know. But for now, we have the chat room open on rawpasawebsite.com, and you can tweet your questions into me on Twitter at ArmstrongTaran if you so desire. But let's get into this. We're just two days away from the finale of Big Brother Canada 6. We have our final three. If you do not want to be spoiled on the final three, there are spoilers out there from Marissa herself. So now would be the time to bounce out and come back later when if you don't want to know who is in the final three, because we're going to be talking about it quite a lot. This is usually a spoiler podcast. These spoilers are slightly different, but there's spoilers nonetheless. But let's talk about what happened over the course of the last week. The last time we talked, we were looking at Maddie potentially leaving, and ultimately she does. Maddie goes home last Thursday night, and surprising everyone except for Brent, Paris ends up winning the HOH 4 questions to none, and then none again. And Paris manages to save herself in a situation where otherwise it was looking pretty dire. Paris will be in the final three. How do you feel about that, Melissa?
I feel really good about it because I would much prefer to have Paris, Derek, and Kayla in the final three than to have Will in the final three, which you knew was going to happen if Paris got voted out. You know that he's going to be taken probably to the final two, and then there's a possibility of him winning, and this basically eliminates any possibility of Will winning this game, which is very good for all of us.
Yes, it's really interesting how people's games this season, and maybe this happens every season, but I just think specifically this season, how two people's games in particular really turned on like amazing out of this world comp wins. Like Johnny's game was set until Derek won that veto, even after the twist screwed everything up for him. If that veto win by Derek doesn't happen, I really think that Johnny is still in this house. And then Will's game, on the other hand, everything was going great for Will. Maybe he didn't realize how good it was going. As long as Paris doesn't win HOH out of nowhere at the final four, and yet she does. And so here we are.
Yes, we did see a jury video released just today. Maddie has joined the jury, and they did mention Will throwing the competition, and Allie had a funny moment where she speaks right into the camera. Will have to live with this for the rest of his life. I don't know if Will had much of a chance if he had made it to the final two here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously not, but I think the thing that frustrates me more than anything is that he's going to fall back on the, I promised on my son and I swore on my son, and so that's why I couldn't. People always find a way to rationalize their idiot strategy in the house. So I'm sure that's what he's going to bring up when he's out of the house. Just like Paris is going to give you the boilerplate, the Big Brother house is a pressure cooker, and of course I did some things I'm not proud of. I mean, I can't wait for both of those two to give me what we know is coming.
Yeah, although all you have to say to Will is just like, well, why did you even swear on your son in the first place? Why did you even agree to this in the first place? Like, yeah, I understand after you've swore on it, you feel like you can't go back on it. But why'd you even do it in the first place? You agreed to give the veto up? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Silly Will. So ultimately, we end up with Kayla winning the veto here at the final four. Kayla will decide who to evict. And despite some very minor, brief hesitation in terms of, do I need to take the shot at Derek now so that I can have Will as my final two GOAT? She does end up, and this is where the spoilers come in. Granted, we knew this heading into the eviction. Kayla had chosen to evict Will, not to evict Derek. By the time the feeds cut, we just got the confirmation from Arissa accidentally on the ET Canada interview where she says that the showmance is still in the game.
I was just like in the back of my head, like Arissa, if you're listening, and I know you listen occasionally, I hope you do this next year where you're going to go on some random news show and you start to talk about the final three and you accidentally spoil something, but really you're just pulling our leg. Like you're totally trolling us. Like I would like, there's a part of me, like a 0.5% part of me that thinks that Will is still in the house and that she is just totally trolling us right now. But that would be hilarious. And I would I totally bow down if that was happening. Let's hope not though.
Yeah, seriously. I'm happy with the spoilers and I really hope that they are correct.
Yeah, I'd be incredibly surprised. So ultimately, I think that we're looking at now, Will is out of the house. We're looking at the final three of Paris, Derek, and Kayla. That is sort of the recap of the week here. But I want to go back. We've got this thing going on for the live feed updates, the final 3 days. This morning, I spoke with Puya, and we went through the entirety of Derek's game from start to finish, a 2-hour extravaganza of Derek's game, and we go into a lot of detail. I have notes from every single day. I have every single bit of the feeds notated, and it's all searchable. So just any reference to Derek, there you go. So we went over Derek's game. And so what I want to do, and we're going to go over Paris's game, we're going to go over Kayla's game, but what I want to do here for the roundtable, I want to come up with this season on Big Brother Canada 6. Let's do a quick recap, focusing mostly on the final three, but just the broad strokes of what we saw this season on the feeds, in terms of the house and how we got to where we are.
Do we get to do it in that voice the whole time?
Yes.
This season. And then we have to do random puns and stuff on people's names. Like the Veto Queen.
Dela started at this center. All right. So I'm
just imagining a whole podcast of you just doing that voice. Just recapping the season. You should do that for all your morning updates.
Dela went over the top, nowhere.
Under the covers.
Shade.
All right, so to start off the game, we saw Dela at the center of power, right? They had the Real Deal, the Seven, the Bro Alliance. They had good relationships around the house. They were in control of the social aspect, the social dynamic of the game, the social structure. Paris, meanwhile, was, I think, just off center of that. She was not in the center of everything, but she was attached to these alliances. She had the Real Deal. She had the trio of Will and Maddie. She had the Jesse showmance. So she had a decent amount of control as well. This lasted for essentially 2 weeks. The first week and then the second week with Ryan as the HOH. This was the power structure in the house for those first couple of weeks. Both Dela and Paris doing pretty well in those first weeks there. Bren.
Yes, exactly. In fact, it's so funny. I'm thinking back to those first few weeks because, unlike you, I do not keep notes. I'm just have more of a life than that. So although you're very sweet to keep those. I'm glad you do. I am specifically keeping track of Paris's game because she was the person I picked first in the draft. I remember the first few weeks as being quiet for Paris, specifically, and also for Dela. They always seemed like they were in the in crowd, so to speak. Like that Real Deal alliance. I think it's amazing that three of them are still in the final three, presumably. And it's amazing to me further that the showmance didn't attract more attention in the beginning because of the fact that previous players always talk about how dangerous showmances are.
Yeah.
I also remember that at the time, Paris's game she was in a really good place, but it was a really precarious place. I just remember us being like, I don't know if she can keep this up, because the second somebody talks and realizes she has like all these hands in all these different cookie jars, she's going to be in big trouble. And I just remember that, like, while we were very impressed with what she was doing, we were also like, there's no way she can keep this up. And she did keep it up for quite a long time.
Always good to keep it up.
At the very least, those first couple of weeks, because once Hamza comes into power, Dela's power structure crumbles. And because Hamza wins HOH, he starts targeting Dela. Luckily, though, or maybe not luckily, maybe through skill, whatever you want to call it, Derek manages to save Dela through his social game, while Kayla rebuilds their strategic game with Ali and Liv. So working as a team, they manage to their power structure crumbles, but they manage to hang on through the combination of the social work Derek does and the strategic work that Kayla does. But they lose Johnny in the process, and this is going to be a major hindrance to their game moving forward. Johnny ensures that Jesse gets evicted. While all this is happening, Paris kind of flounders as she tries to save Jesse and loses basically all the power that she has in the game, which is both good and bad for her, because it's bad she has no more power in the game, but it's good because this is going to lead her to the role that she ends up playing for basically the rest of the game, which is, I am powerless, I'm just going to try and do my best to survive, which works very effectively for what Paris does in the game.
Yes, and I was actually sort of, I don't know, maybe stunned about this particular strategy for Paris, because I thought she would play a ballsier game than what she ended up playing. Instead, she started to play one that was really dependent on the, please don't take me seriously, I'm the immature girl, I can't win anything, basically don't look over here. And I didn't think that that was the game that she was going to play in the house. Although in hindsight, maybe I should have realized that that was what she was going to do, because it's basically I guess somewhat of a version of the Rob Sesternino go to sleep for the first month and then wake up and do something. Of course, she forgot to wake up and win some comps, early on in the first half or the second half of the season. But I do think that it was an effective strategy for her, because no one ever looked her way. Like, I can remember Maddie being, on everyone's lips as a potential nominee for seemingly weeks on end. And Taran, I don't remember Paris ever coming up as, she's a potential target or nominee for me. I mean, I thought she played a particularly great game, and we'll cover it in more detail tomorrow. But it was an interesting one.
Yeah, I was very surprised as well with the way that Paris played the game, because, listening to her pre-show interviews, I just really didn't expect it to go this way for her. I mean, look at her now, she's in a good spot, but it's very different from what I thought she was going to do, because she played way more of like a scrappy game, where it was just like doing whatever you can with what you have, and you just got to make it to the next week sort of thing. Whereas I really thought she was going to play a quieter, more conniving game. I guess I really thought she was going to be more of a Netta figure, but I guess, that's only just because they looked very similar and, all that stuff. But it was totally different than what I expected. I think
part of the problem is the fact that she never got in power. She never had, her or her allies never got in power. That's the real problem, because if, there's so many of these luck-based comps, some what the F kind of HOH wins. You would think that it would have happened to her at one point, where somebody that she's close to, she can manipulate into doing what she wants. And it never happened. She was always on the outskirts, always never the target, but never at the epicenter of where the power structure was in the house. And I feel like that's why she ended up playing the game she did. If somebody like Will had won an HOH or Maddie had won an HOH, somewhere down the line, I feel like that Paris might have exerted her influence and showed her teeth a little bit more, but because of the nature of the house and who was winning, she was relegated to sort of like second tier status, I'd say.
Yeah, I also thought it was interesting how whenever she typically was able to get in whoever was in power's ear and convince them to do things, which she was super successful at that. But what was weird to me was that she was aiming for people that you wouldn't think she really should be aiming for. Like she'd be convincing them to go after Maddie or convincing them to go after Ryan or something like that, where it was like, why those people? Why aren't you going after the people who really are a huge threat to you? It was weird to me that those were what she chose to exert her influence to get on the block. Like it was weird.
Yeah. So basically, what happens is, after Hamza's HOH week, it crumbles the power structure of the house. Dela manages to recover again through Derek's social game, Kayla's strategic game. Paris recovers just by being a survivor, right? So in the next few weeks, Dela manages to sort of float by. They're able to ride out their side of the alliance with Erica, Liv, and Allie for a few weeks. Johnny does the same at this point. Johnny is now against Dela. He's trying to take a shot at them, but Dela doesn't realize it yet. But they're both on two different sides of the same, essentially the same alliance of this Allie, Liv, and Erica trio, where Erica has HOH, then it's Liv, then it's Erica again. Dela's never in too much trouble because they are aligned with that, with Erica and Liv. Paris, meanwhile, bonds with Erica. She does the thing. She hugs Erica's teddy bear thing. She does everything she can to just survive and throw her allies under the bus in the process. Paris is in full on just as long as it's not me. And if it's not me, oh, you're talking bad about Veronica? Screw Veronica. Oh, crap, I shouldn't have thrown Veronica under the bus. Oh, you're talking bad about Maddie? Screw Maddie. Oh, crap, I shouldn't have talked Maddie. I shouldn't have thrown Maddie under the bus. And that's basically going to be how Paris operates, where I think she operates under this dichotomy of she's very good at surviving like a cockroach, but she doesn't want to be that player. She wants to be the master manipulator. So she gets frustrated at herself, at her own success, but also failure to be what she's not. If that says anything about.
Yeah, I remember early on she was like a loaded gun with a nervous trigger finger. I mean, like, as far as aiming at people and then saying, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that." Like, oh yeah. So just have to be more careful with who you're. It was a nervous game. That's what I remember the most about Paris. And I don't mean to talk specifically about Paris, but she's my girl, and I have the most stock of Paris out of any of y'all. I feel like that it was a nervous game early on because I do think that she doubted herself. Whereas I don't feel like Dela. First of all, I don't think Derek cared early on, and I don't think Kayla ever really thought she wasn't in whatever power was in place until Hamza became HOH. Does that make sense?
What'd you say?
Oh, what? Were you not listening?
I just I didn't follow what you were saying.
Okay. I'm trying to say that Paris's game was a lot more nervous, and Kayla's, on the other hand, was a lot more self-assured until Hamza became HOH, and then throughout that time after that, that's when Kayla decided to pick up her game a little bit more and was a little bit more in tune with where the house was. Like, I felt like Kayla was in a bit of a daze for the first few weeks. Does that make sense or not?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yes. So that's how they wrote out the next few weeks. That's how the house stood, where Paris was sort of, and we talked about this a lot, how the three pillars of strategy were Kayla, Johnny, and Paris, where Kayla and Johnny were both on the same side of, or on two different sides of the same alliance. Johnny kind of waiting to go after Dela not realizing it yet, but for sure would end up eventually going after Johnny, while Paris just did everything she could to survive. So that lasts for a few weeks. Then Kayla wins the HOH. And at this point, Paris convinces her to make a big mistake and target Ryan. But Canada saves Kayla from making this mistake. They give her a second chance to right the wrong, and Erica ends up leaving instead, which ignites the full-on war. The war finally starts between Dela and Johnny. At which point they go to war. They trade comps back and forth, but they keep missing their shots. And instead of taking each other out, Allie and Ryan end up as casualties of this war, before Derek finally gets the big nuke in the triple eviction and just wipes Johnny and the rest of his allies out, leaving only the showmance and the trio. And so that's how we got to the final five. Any comment there, Melissa?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting how they just couldn't make their shots. Like, they would line it up perfectly and they'd make it so it was just an easy shot, take the person out, and then all the voters would just be like, no, I think we're just going to do the opposite of what you want. And it happened like a few times. I was very surprised that it happened twice. Because normally, you see a giant target up there on the block, you take them out. Like that's the easiest thing to do is just take them out. That's your one chance. And, they just didn't do it, which I loved, by the way, because I love watching the vote change like that. I mean, it was getting so frustrating those few weeks when it's just going back and forth, but it was just riveting because I wanted to know what was going to happen. And I was so nervous, both votes.
Yeah, I really do feel like that this is the point in time in a season, and then it also happens in other seasons in modern Big Brother, where players are smarter than they used to be, and it's not just as simple as, look who's on the block, who's the bigger target, we'll eliminate them. Oftentimes it's like, well, this other person, I don't want to sit next to them, so I might want to get rid of them instead, because if you end up on the block with them, then you're dead meat. I mean, I know even going back to Big Brother 2, you can think of times like this where, you look at an obvious target and an obvious pawn, and you can make the mental gymnastics switch in your mind where you want to target the person who seemingly is not the most targetable person. But I really do feel like more than anything this season, they second guessed that so much. Like even all the way up to when Kayla was on the block. Yeah, I know I'm jumping ahead, but it seems obvious. Like there's a showman's in the house. There's only 8 of you left, and you can evict one of them right now. But then there are reasons to keep her, and we can talk about those.
Yeah, you know what I loved about this season? Really, it was the fluidity of this season. I liked the fact that there wasn't just one big alliance or like 2 big alliances or 3 big alliances, whatever, that just they stuck with it the whole time. I liked the fact that when people were on the block and about to go home, people would make deals and be like, look, I can work with this person. What can I do? Like they're desperate. They need somebody to like pick them up and save them in this game. And maybe they will then be loyal to me. And I love the idea that people were willing to work with different people. It didn't matter who, that just as long as they would get them.
Oh. So as long as we can. And there we go.
Shoot. I had a really awesome, great long speech. And
we missed it. What a shame.
I've been there. I've been on a rant, and then I'm like, wait, am I not talking anymore? Like, how dare
so
they?
Annoying. I had really good things to say.
No. Go ahead. Finish your thought, honey. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know where we cut off.
We heard everything up until like the last 2 sentences. So just pick up where you were.
Well, I don't remember where I was, but it basically was just that I really liked the idea that people were willing to work with whoever would get them further in the game, and it didn't matter about loyalty or anything like that. It wasn't like we're stuck with these people and, we're digging in our heels and keeping with them the entire time, even when the boat's sinking. I like the fact that they were willing to do whatever it took and work with whoever they had to work with to get them further. And I really hope that trend keeps going.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that too, because I did retweet a Hamster Watch article, much of which I agreed with, because a lot of it was about the feeds being down and how production said they cared for the fans. And I think that, honestly, they really didn't care for the fans that really brought the show back. I think they cared for the fans that are watching on TV, but who didn't even know that Big Brother Canada was sick. But the one thing I didn't agree about the article was that I did really enjoyed this season, because I like the fluidity of the players, and I think it was really nice to appreciate some of the quiet strategy from many of these people. And a lot of them were really, really good players. Maybe they didn't play the games that we wanted. Maybe they didn't play a game like Ica that was, like full on out there and, ready to take on the entire world at any given moment. But it was nice to see even Paris driving us crazy by going back and forth at times and switching her mind, or even Paris early on in the seasons where she's attempting to save somebody who's obviously dying, and it's hilarious to watch. You're like, oh my God, you're totally overestimating your powers of persuasion here by trying to do this. But I've really enjoyed this season, and the fluidity of it has been the thing that's made me smile the most.
Yeah, I loved this season. I've absolutely enjoyed this season 100%. The one thing I'm not enjoying is the episodes, but the season itself, the people, the cast, the live feeds, everything. I've loved it. It's been awesome. If only the episodes could reflect what we're seeing.
Yes, yeah, it's unfortunate, the editing, but we'll talk about it. So we get down to the final five. It's the Showmance versus the Trio, and the Showmance is going to dominate the Trio in terms of competition ability. They're going to win the vast majority of these competitions, and then the ones that they can't win, they're going to out socialize and out strategize the Trio by convincing Will to drop down. And so they're going to cut Will, they're going to cut Maddie, and Paris is going to, again, just clutch on to life. She should be gone, but she is that cockroach. She manages to win the one competition that she truly needs to survive and make it down to survive the final four, to make it down to the final three, which brings us to our final three. We have Paris, the survivor, Derek, the social comp beast, and Kayla, our strategic comp queen.
Yeah.
And it's a great final three.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I don't know what the Final Four veto was, but I'm gonna guess it's something that Paris wasn't able to win, because I think it was a timed competition, and Paris and Will came in like third and fourth place. So this was like the one competition that Paris could win. Like, even though you say, okay, I've got an HOH and I've got a veto, you really got an HOH if you're Paris. And that was your one time, because you're standing there. All you literally have to do is hit a button and say what the right answer is. And she was able to do that, and I was thrilled to see it.
Yeah, this is a great final three. I'm very, very happy with this final three.
Yeah, so people often say, this is why we can't have nice things on Big Brother. But honestly, this season, a couple of things happened to allow us to get nice things. So I'm really, really psyched that Paris won that HOH.
Yes, so there we go. That is our final three. That was the path to get here, the main storylines from the season. As we've talked about, it's been a great season. The feeds have been amazing. We've talked about this before, I think, on some updates. But I'm definitely ready to call this the best Big Brother Canada season on the feeds, at least. And I don't think it's even that close, to be honest.
I agree. I totally agree. I've had such a good time watching the season. I'm never bored. I feel like for the most part, there's always something. Even when you thought for sure that it was an easy week and they were going to vote someone out, it never ended up that easy. So I've just had such a great time watching it. And people are in the chat someone asked in the chat, like, is it just because of Big Brother 19 that we're thinking this season is so good? And I don't think so at all. I think that in comparison to all the seasons I've watched on the feeds, like, this is one of the best seasons on feeds by far.
And remember, we're coming off of Celebrity Big Brother.
And that was great.
Big Brother 19, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's the feeds have been excellent. The episodes, on the other hand, left a lot to be desired. I know that Rob, as somebody that isn't always on top of the feeds, from just watching the episodes from that perspective, he's like, yeah, this has been not a great season at all. Hasn't been enjoying it. I don't know what the general consensus is of the show only watchers. The ratings have been up from last season, so take that for what you will, I guess. I don't really, I don't know why necessarily, but that's a good sign at the very least. Again, I'd be very curious to know how the TV only watchers would view this season, but it's going to be weird to rank the seasons now, because there's such a disparity between watching the season on the feeds and watching the episodes. I might be ready to say this might be my favorite Big Brother Canada season, full stop.
Oh, yeah, I can't say that. I can't say that. I mean, I just want to be clear where I'm specifically at right now. I can't co-sign the two of you in terms of, like, the feeds have been amazing. To me, amazing feeds are where you can sprinkle in entertainment and strategy. And I think the strategy has been there, but the entertainment, not so much. And so, I mean, I specifically watch the feeds for reasons, i.e. those, and when one of them is missing, I feel like it can be a little weighted to one side. I can see you rolling your eyes, Taran Armstrong.
I just didn't understand the reference.
Well, what? I mean, like, it's a TV show at the end of the day. I mean, like, even though it's live feeds, I mean, it's a television medium that you're watching on the feed. So if it's not entertaining, if it's just strategy and people, deciding what they're going to do, I feel like at the times that can get a little bit wearing on people. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the feeds have been incredibly entertaining, not only from a strategy perspective, but also from there has been drama throughout the season. I don't think that the feeds have reached the height of Big Brother Canada 2, but or necessarily
Big Brother Canada 5.
Of Big Brother Canada 5. But
Yeah.
I think that throughout, it has been consistent in delivering drama.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's like 5 was more of a roller coaster, and this one is more of like a steady ride.
Exactly.
Would that be over? Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there have been definitely other seasons that have been more dramatic and more maybe exciting, but I feel like they also gave me more boring weeks, whereas this one, like, it was consistently good, and like I could turn on the feeds whenever and there was typically something going on, and it wasn't just boredom, which I feel like is usually the case, especially in seasons where the person that's going to be voted out is already predetermined, essentially. I will say though that like there are certain seasons on feeds that I liked more in terms of like for various reasons, one way or the other. Like Brent said, like sometimes there would be more drama, and that's very exciting sometimes. And then there's also seasons where you watch and you're like, I wish I was hanging out with these people, and you just want to watch them just like talk, and just hang out. And like seasons like Big Brother 16, I felt that, and Celebrity, and even OTT with the Ball Smashers. Like I felt like I want to hang out with these people, and I want to just sit here and watch these people just talk about whatever they want to talk about. Who knows? But this season didn't really have that for me. But the other stuff was there, and I still found myself very entertained by the feeds.
Yeah. So I definitely think it's up there. I think the feeds were, again, it didn't reach the highs of Big Brother Canada 2 or 5, but I think just consistently, I don't think there was a single week where I was just like, just turn off the feeds. You could maybe say Ryan's HOH week, the very first week, was the most boring week of the season. Obviously, this final week after the triple has been pretty lackluster, but that's usually the case anyway. With what happened with the triple, that was a thing. But throughout the entire season, there was never a single dull week. There was always something going on, always some kind of flip happening, and that's something that we don't usually see on Big Brother.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done. I was going to ask you that Tracy Burke said in the chat that this season she thinks has the least twists of the seasons that we've been covering. And so, like, do you think that has aided the quality of the season, or would you even agree with the premise?
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I mean, I'd probably have it. It's probably close to Big Brother Canada 2 in terms of least amount of twists. There was one big one, Canada's HOH, Canada's Save, and then there was a triple in Big Brother Canada 6, and there was a secret veto in Big Brother Canada 2. So, I mean, I think it's pretty on par in terms of the amount of twists. And I don't think it's a coincidence that these are two of the best seasons that Big Brother Canada has produced.
Tell him, Taran. Tell him.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, I mean, like I said, the most boring week this season was the one directly after the triple eviction, because that killed the rest of the strategic gameplay. But I just think this has been a great season so far. I think it's at the very least in the top half of the Big Brother Canada seasons. I would say it's at least, for me, one of the top two in terms of the whole package, at least, like, because I personally prefer feeds to episodes. So even though Big Brother Canada 5 delivered some better episodes, the feeds weren't always as exciting. So I would lean toward Big Brother Canada 6 in that aspect. Big Brother Canada 2, I think, was solid in both. So that's kind of a hard one to top. But either way, great season, I think. Very excited about the result of it. Very excited to see it come to an end, Melissa.
Yeah, I'm sad for it to come to an end, really, like, which is pretty rare because usually I'm exhausted by the end and I'm like, okay, like, let's move on to the next one. But I'm actually kind of sad for it to come to an end. It was very fun to cover it and very exciting to watch it. So I'm just really excited for the finale, and it's going to be really good to watch.
Yeah, it's crazy that we went from Big Brother Canada 5, or I mean, really, we went from what, like Big Brother Canada 5 to 19 to Celebrity to Big Brother Canada 6. Not a whole lot of breaks in between,
No.
and we're not burdened out. Like this is the most excited we've been in all of those seasons for one of these seasons. So I think that says a lot about the quality of the season.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, because usually by this point, you'd think we'd be totally burned out because we've just covered so many right in a row. But I'm not. And I'm excited for BB20 to come out already. Like, I'm just excited for them to release the cast. It was a good season. I'm really hopeful that they get another renewal. And also, there's been rumors of Big Brother Australia potentially coming back, which I really hope that happens.
There you go. But so another thing I want to talk about in terms of this season was the cast, because I think this was a very strong cast. And again, like, no, there weren't necessarily any Ika Wongs on the cast. But I think that in general, this was just a very, very strong cast. A lot of really strong and strategic women on the cast. We had a lot of competition there. I mean, even Derek, who was looking like one of the most boring people, has ended up playing a very strong game, as we went over this morning. There was really nobody that was a huge dud to me, other than maybe Will, but even Will had some kind of entertaining quality to them. People really enjoyed hating Will, I think, as a useless player. So there's that. There are very few duds, if any, and a very active cast. The drama wasn't focused around one person every time. There was drama throughout the cast because things were happening all over the place. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, I thought the casting was so good this season. It was great because I remember when we were drafting, and normally when I make my list for the draft, I can usually pick out maybe 3 or 4 people who I really want, and then at least 8 people who I'm like, no, I do not want these people at all. And so I put those at the end. But really, there really wasn't anybody this season that I was like, absolutely no, I do not want this person. And, maybe it might have been Veronica at the time, just because her intro videos were so boring because they were trying to corral her into this angel persona, which clearly she's not. And then she gets in the house and she's very exciting, very entertaining, and really fun to watch. And she totally wasn't a dud. So, I mean, there really wasn't any this season.
Yeah, I'm really taken about the fact that, not to pat ourselves on the back, but I'm looking at our draft list, and Paris and Kayla were the first 2 people taken. And look who's in the final 3, Paris and Kayla, along with Derek. By the way, for those of you who haven't been following the draft, me and Melissa and Taran each have one person in the final 3, which I think is really cool.
I think it's the first time this has ever happened.
Yeah.
First time it's ever happened. Usually it's just Taran and everyone else. And we also, Taran, your first pick was Maddie, and then after that, Johnny. So again, there were no clunkers. We knew who the players were from the start, and they showed us.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that it's very exciting that we all each have a player, because usually it's Taran has 2 and then Brent and I we lose 1 or whatever going into it or whatever. So yeah, it's an exciting finale coming up.
Yeah, normally what would have happened here, even down to the final 5, it would have been Kayla gets evicted at final 4, and the final 3 is Maddie and Derek and somebody else, and Maddie and Derek make it to the end, and it's just okay, well, Taran wins, but not this time.
No. I feel we all each have an equal chance at this point. Yeah. I feel any one of them could win, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's we're talking about this final 3 is a great final 3. I think that is not due to luck. This is due to the fact that there were so many great players. If Erica or Johnny or Liv or there are so many other people that could have made this final 3 that we would have said this is a great final 3. And I think that's a testament to the quality of the cast this season. And I think in general, Big Brother Canada casting has just been pretty solid. Obviously I feel like it might have started to go downhill a little bit. Big Brother Canada 4, then Big Brother Canada 5 with the new players. But they've really stepped up their game, I think, and returned to the glory of the first 3 casts of Big Brother Canada. And I'm really happy about that. And I hope that they do come back again and show Big Brother US the one thing that they definitely do a lot better, which is cast a season of players.
Oh my God, yes, please.
All right. So now I want to let's talk about our predictions, because I want to get some detailed predictions. There's so many different things that can happen, and we've talked about the possibilities. I think we've all been pretty fencerton about like this could happen, this could happen. I want to get an official prediction about every scenario that we might see from each of us. Somebody can help lay it out for us and put it in a chart like Matt Liguori did. In terms of this final 3 HOH, who do we think that each person is going to bring with them to the final 2? And we'll start with Paris. Who do we think Paris is going to bring with her when it comes? If Paris wins the final 3 HOH, who is she cutting? Who is she taking to the final 2? Brent, let's start with you.
I think that Paris is taking Kayla, and I think she will lose to Kayla. In fact, this is the one that I want to happen the most. I really want Paris to win part 1 or part 2 of the final HOH, get herself into part 3. I think she is more than capable of winning part 3 of the final HOH, because it's basically weird ass trivia about the season. Like, how many women who won the veto used it while they were on the block? Is it A4 or B5? I mean, like, stuff like this is what they ask in the final HOH. And you're like, so I think, given what I saw with Derek and his propensity to answer questions quickly in the final 4 HOH, I don't think he's any threat. And Kayla studies, but I'm still betting on Paris at this point. So I'm hoping Paris. My official prediction is Paris wins the final HOH, lives out her dream, starts crying, takes Kayla to the final 2. It's an all-women final 2, and Kayla wins. I'm gonna say 5-2.
Oh, we'll go over every single vote. Don't you?
Okay. Sorry.
Melissa, who do you think Paris takes with her if she wins this final HOH?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Brent, because I think that she believes that Derek would beat her, because they've been talking this whole time about what an amazing game Derek's played and how the jury loves him and all that sort of stuff. So I think that she would believe she had a better chance of beating Kayla, and she would take Kayla to the end if she won HOH.
I agree. I think we all can agree. Paris has talked about this before. She sees Derek as a bigger final 2 threat. That's why they think Kayla needs to cut Derek at the end. So it does look. I do think it seems more likely that she was going to take Kayla. So that will be my official prediction as well. That said, this is not locked in. I don't think she's definitely taking Kayla, but that is what my prediction is going to be. So let's move on.
I just wanted to ask really quickly. I don't know if you can see me talking to the chat room right now. There is a potential spoiler out there about part 1, but I don't know if people want me to. I can see you shaking your head. You know what I'm talking about then.
Yeah,
so talk about that.
I doubt the validity of it.
Doubt the validity of it. I saw the. I'll just say that this person has tweeted other things that were definitely true, and like in multiple weeks. So I am more inclined to believe it. But I could also see where we are getting played. So, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Well, we can briefly talk about it here, just because we brought it up.
Okay, sorry, it's my fault, Taran. I apologize, Taran. Okay, look. So, someone has said this is potential. It's a potential spoiler, so nothing's official until Arissa says it. So I'll know that, okay? But I'm gonna try to spoil something for you all. So apparently Paris has won part 1 of the final HOH, and that it was endurance. Now, I will tell you that the person who tweeted this is at Love Live Disney. And if this spoiler turns out to be untrue, you can all unfollow them. You have my permission. But previously, they were at the show, and they tweeted a couple of weeks ago, fresh out of the live show, no power in the tomb. It's Marsha with a task for Will. Ryan was evicted 6-0. Endurance competition to follow. Then the following week, or 2 weeks later, fresh out of the live show, Maddie was evicted. Obviously, a mental competition followed, and Paris is the new HOH. So they have been spoiling correctly up until now. And I mean, I don't know if this is like where they're playing the long game, where they're like trying to spoil things along the way to hoodwink us, but I don't think that has enough payoff. So because of that, I am inclined to believe it. And I think that it's possible that Paris did win part 1 of HOH. And until I see otherwise, I'm going with it.
But did they have an audience though? Like, I mean, because their previous spoilers were from being in the audience, and if it's not a live show, they have some sort of connection.
What they're saying is, because somebody asked them that same question, and they said, I don't know for sure. I know it was endurance, like they had to hold on something, but apparently she killed Derek and Kayla. So take it with a grain of salt. And look, nothing's official till Larissa says it anyway. And this is a show of spoilers. So, if I'm prefacing it with, it's not official, and, don't take it to the bank. But it smells correct to me.
I will say, based on what I've seen, most people are not believing this.
Okay.
It obviously could be true, but just from what I've seen, most people are not. One of the main sticking points here is that the first part of the final 3 HOH is not usually pure endurance. It's usually something very physical, which you'd think is the competition that Paris would be least likely to win, let alone dominate Kayla and Derek on.
What they're saying is possible. That the person I talked to said that the fans are screaming rigged because of the fact that it was more like a Big Brother US Part 1 HOH rather than the one I always go back to is the Big Brother 3 Canada HOH, where it was Godfrey and Ashley and Sarah running up and down those goddamn stairs forever, pouring sand into their hourglasses. Looked absolutely awful to win, and Godfrey obviously ended up winning that. So I don't know. I mean, take it with a grain of salt, and I apologize for getting us off track. But we try to talk about everything here. Nothing's off limits, especially when you got me around.
All right. So that is possibly what happened. It would certainly throw a wrench into Dela's plans. So let's talk about Derek. If Derek wins the final 3 HOH, who do we think he will take with him to the final 2? I can start here. I think very, very small chance that he does anything but take Kayla there. I think not only does he feel an obligation to her, but I think part of the reason why he adheres to that obligation is because he thinks he can beat her. I don't think there's I think this is the most locked in prediction that we can make. I think Derek will take Kayla to the final 2. Brent, do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. Although, as I previously stated, Derek was never in the position of power. He was never the person who was voting. I mean, he was voting, but he didn't have the power. The last couple of weeks, like when Kayla was HOH at Final 5 and whatnot, and when she had the veto and she had to decide what to do. The conversations where you need to talk Derek into cutting Kayla have not really happened yet. And that if this spoiler is not true and Derek and Kayla win part 1 and part 2, that Paris is going to get in Derek's ear to try to say, look, you cannot beat Kayla. You're throwing away $100,000. This is the reason why you should cut her. A, B, and C. Here are the votes she has, A, B, C, and D. And obviously you could beat me 7-0 by taking me to the end. Even though Maddie and Will were my friends, they're going to vote for the best player. And Will loved you, so you could obviously get his vote as well. So I really do feel like that's what could happen.
Yeah, although I do feel like Derek is way too interested in his image coming out of the house. And I think that he would want to maintain this, showman's thing, with Kayla, because he saw that they were nominated for an award for Best Kiss and stuff like that. So I could absolutely see Derek being like, I would be willing to take second place in order to further my good boy image outside of the house moving forward, rather than having people hate me.
I hate that. Yes, I hate that when people are like, if the phrase "I'd be willing to take second place ... is anywhere in your vocabulary, you really shouldn't be on the show.
Yeah, no,
All
for
right.
sure. I agree.
So let's talk about Kayla, because this is the most interesting one here. Who does Kayla take with her to the final 2 if she wins the final 3 HOH? What makes this interesting is that she's been saying all season long that she plans on cutting Derek here. She said that to the cameras. She said that to other players. She's really made this her narrative all season long, is that I am going to cut Derek. However, she's also been talking about how she can't sit next to Paris in the final two because Paris has had a great social game and that she's afraid that she would lose to Paris, and throw in the wrench that Derek would be bitter, and he has said that to her, that he would not vote for her in the end if she cut him. And I think you have to start to look at the fact that it may both not make sense to her emotionally because she doesn't want to do it, and it also might not make sense to her strategically because she may not have the votes, or at least that may be how she sees it. Ultimately, I think that she goes with the idea that she can't be there with Paris. I think that she does end up taking Derek to the final two and hoping that she can beat him in the end. I think that she might be right if that is the case, but it will be close. Brent, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, but that's not what I want to happen. I want to see her cut Derek. I want it to happen so much. I can see it in my dreams, Taran. I want to see her cutting Derek and telling him to get out, but it ain't gonna happen. I mean, I feel like she's gonna take Derek to the end, and for the reasons you stated, it makes sense strategically to keep Derek at this point, I think, because Paris is a viable final two contender. She has friends on the jury, and there are other people on the jury who dislike Kayla. Ryan, I'm talking to you. So I feel like that there might be a way for Paris to win. If you look at, obviously the votes I'm looking at are Ryan, Maddie, Will, and a scorned Derek. That would be the way. I said before that I do not believe that Derek would vote against Kayla. If she did cut him, I think he would come to his senses and he would vote for her. But I also agree with him never giving her an inch in the house. Like when you talked to Puya on the show earlier today, Taran, talking about the fact that never give people permission to cut you or they will. And he hasn't done that. So I'm glad that he didn't do that for his sake. But I do feel like that Kayla would make a mistake if she took Paris to the final two, because I think it would be really closer than it should be. I think she can beat Derek. I don't want to say in a walk, but I do feel like that a couple votes would swing her way that maybe otherwise would not.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the jury respects Kayla's game more than Derek's game. And so I think that Kayla will end up taking Derek because she'll know that she needs as many votes as she can get. And also with Derek saying he's not going to vote for her and he's going to be bitter and all that, if she goes against Paris, she already knows that Paris has Will and Maddie, probably Ryan. And I feel like she'll know that it's a lot closer, whereas people can't really be mad at the things that Kayla and Derek did if they're going against each other because they both did everything together. So they'll have to judge it off of other things. And I think that she has a much better chance going against Derek. So I think she will recognize that and take Derek.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, Jonathan Lewis in the chat, talking about our favorite season, Big Brother 14, said Shane gave Danielle permission to put him on the block and see what happened there. Exactly. You give people permission, you're asking for trouble. I will say really quickly about Derek that Maisie makes a point in the chat by noting that in his Final Four video, his message to himself said to go after the money. And remember, the John Netta switch where he was going to take her and then he didn't take her happened basically when the feeds were down, and we never got to saw his evolution in terms of his thinking. So, if there is a big surprise awaiting us with Derek, first of all, I'd laugh because that's the one chart that Matt Liguori didn't do. And two, I think it would be obvious to us why, because he started thinking more about the money and he thinks that he can beat Paris. Although strategically, I think it's good for Derek and Kayla to both take themselves to the final two for the reason that then it's an even playing field. They both jointly made decisions together. They both won competitions protecting each other. At that point, it's I don't know. Ironically, it's who you like or respect more. I feel like the jury might like Derek more, but they respect Kayla more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean it's a tough spot, and I do think the main difference between John's situation and Derek's situation is that with John the alternative was Sabrina, and so every time he looked at Netta, then looked at Sabrina, he was like, wait a minute. Whereas when Derek is looking at Kayla versus Paris, I think that he is worried about his chances against Paris, and I think that he thinks that he can beat Kayla. So I don't think there's like a realization that he would come to unless his mind just really started to change over the course of these few days that the feeds have been out. So I do think it's pretty unlikely, but we all agree in each situation. We think if Paris wins, she's taking Kayla. If Derek wins, he's taking Kayla. If Kayla wins, she's taking Derek, which means if we're right, we will see Kayla in the final two, regardless of what happens. There's a shot that Derek is sitting there, and Paris will have to win her way there if she wants to be sitting in the final two. But let's talk about the jury votes, because I think each situation has vastly different potential outcomes based on not only who is sitting there, but who took who there. So I think it's worth going over each situation and what we think each jury member would do in each situation. So let's start with Derek wins the HOH. He brings Kayla to the final two. He cuts Paris. How do we think the jury is going to vote? We'll just go through each of the names. Brief description of why you might think this, but we're going to try to be quick as we go through each jury member. We'll start with Ryan. Who does Ryan vote for if Derek brings Kayla to the end? What do you think, Brent?
Ryan votes for Derek. And I feel like he does that obviously because he really dislikes Kayla. Derek is a more palatable alternative than Kayla for him to vote for.
I agree.
I agree as well. I think that is the more likely outcome. Obviously, Johnny is going to be trying to campaign to get Ryan to vote for Kayla over Derek, but that goodbye message, I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. So
the only possibility is if Ryan is pulling the long, deception where he's like, I'm not going to vote for her. I don't like her, and then it comes to it. And he's like, you know what? I've got to put aside personal feelings because I love this game so much. And, I'm going to vote for who I think played the best game and then vote for Kayla.
Yeah, that gives him too much credit.
I will say there is a little new piece of information. In Maddie's jury video, they could have been kidding, but we know that there was no love lost between Maddie and Ryan. They had Ryan did not care in the least that I arrived here. They still kind of don't like each other. We know that Maddie's agenda is going to be pro Paris and pro Derek, whereas Johnny is very pro Kayla over Derek. And if you're thinking about who is Ryan more likely to side with in terms of their argument, I think it's much more likely that he sides with Johnny than he sides with Maddie. So that may be a factor that we have to consider. But when it comes down to it, it's hard to think about what might have happened in the jury house. We kind of, the more solid piece of evidence that we have is how did they feel coming out of the house? And he said he would be least likely to vote for Kayla of anyone. And he remains in that mode of she is a ball of hatred. I think that Ryan votes for Derek over Kayla. And we all agree there. So Allie, how does Allie vote here? I think we all can agree Allie votes for Kayla in this situation.
Yeah.
100%. Don't even need to talk about it.
Yes. Johnny also, I think, is a vote for Kayla here.
Yep.
Yes.
Liv,
he ain't voting for the straight white male no more.
Yes. Olivia will also vote for Kayla, which gives Kayla 3 votes, I believe. I think those 3 votes are locked in here. You guys agree, Olivia, for Kayla?
100%.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, but then we have Maddie, who said that this is kind of a tough one. She said that she would vote for Derek over Kayla. However, if Derek ended up taking Kayla to the final 2, she conceded in that situation she may vote for Kayla. Ultimately, I think she just wants to vote for Derek over Kayla, so I'm going to go with the fact that she still would probably vote for Derek in this situation. But honestly, I think it's kind of close.
If she ends up voting for Derek, I'm going to be so disappointed in you, Maddie, because, look, I know some people tweeted some nice things about Maddie, but I'm more in the Ica camp on this one, where I'm just like, you're not the person that you said you were. It's sort of, I hesitate to use this analogy, but it's kind of like a JP thing, where it's like, I thought you were going to be this boisterous, drama-filled person coming into the house, and you're not what you sold us to be. And I'm kind of annoyed about that. When Maddie came in the house, I thought she was going to be amazing, and then she was not in the house. She was very boring. She was very vanilla. Go ahead, Melissa. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm especially nervous about Maddie and Paris's votes because I get the sense that well, especially for Maddie, maybe not so Paris since now she's in the final 3, but if Paris had gone out where Maddie went out, I get the sense that they're like, Kayla's played the game that I was hoping to play. And now Kayla is going to win, and I want to be that person. So if I can't be that strong female winner, I don't want to have a strong female winner until I can come back, or until it's not. I could see them being like, I don't want a strong female winner to win this season that I was on, because that should have been me. And I really hope that that's not the case, and I hope I'm totally off, but I just feel like that might be something that happens. And I really don't want that to be the case, because, you know, they should be excited that there is a strong female winner, even if it wasn't them.
I will say, I think, to be fair to at least Maddie, you know, we went over it this morning that Derek has really been working on Maddie's jury vote all season long. He's bonded with her on a personal level in ways that Kayla hasn't even come close to. The way that he explained his game to her was much more compelling than the way that Kayla explained her game to Maddie. I think that Maddie genuinely does feel like Derek is a stronger player, and that he has come across in a better light than Kayla to her.
I kind of side with Melissa on this one. I think that Maddie's a little salty.
I think that's speculation. I think that's speculation based on
looking
at what happened.
Go ahead. This is the reason why, because in the written exit interview, and I think it was with Gordon Holmes, I can't remember exactly who it was, but they basically called her out on her preseason strategy and said, well, you said you were going to do this, you know, given that this is the strategy executed by Kayla, would you vote for her? And she was already backpedaling, like, well, I don't think you know, there are many things to consider, like, you know, bitch, own your shit, like, own your shit and vote for her. I'm through with Maddie if she votes for Derek.
Honestly,
that's a very like targeted question, right? Like, you ask her that question, if she does anything but say, oh, you're right, then you're gonna go, oh, look at her being biased because of the reason of the question.
That's why I'm here, Taran.
if she votes for Kayla over Derek, then there's no discussion to be had, and she was fine, and she did vote for whoever played the best game. If she votes for Derek over Kayla, after basically saying that Kayla played the game that she wanted to play, then there is a discussion to be had, because it all turns out who she votes for. It all comes down to who she votes for. If she votes for Derek, then I think that there is some validity to what we said.
I don't think that saying that there's validity to my theory as to why she voted this way, just based on the fact that she voted this way, I don't think makes any sense.
Oh yeah, why would that make sense? I don't know. I think it's funny watching. It's funny watching the chat room, because half the chat room is like, you know, Maddie's salty as you know what, and the other part of the chat room is like, she seemed sweet when she went to the jury house, like totally cool. Like, what are you talking about? So I think Maddie's one of these people where she's like got it's like anger underneath the cold exterior on the outside. So I feel like that she looks like she's fine. I'm talking to the chat room specifically. That's why I'm looking over here. She looks like she's fine, but I do feel like she's salty underneath. But you know, hey, Taran, speculation is why I'm here. That's why I have a job. So, you know, what are you talking about?
Well, I'm just saying, like, that, you know, going over the events of the season, you can see exactly where she and why she would prefer Derek over Kayla in terms of the bonding that he did with him.
But that's the thing, is that I could see personally why she would prefer Derek over Kayla. But I think that game-wise,
but you're looking at it from an outside perspective, right? You're looking at it from knowing Kayla, seeing what she did from the television point of view, from the feed's point of view. She didn't have that same perspective. She only had the perspective of what Derek and Kayla were telling her in the game, and Derek was selling a much more compelling case.
Yeah, but if they talk about it in the jury house, I mean, Johnny is going to try and convince for Kayla for sure. And if she still, after hearing the arguments, doesn't vote for Kayla and still thinks that Derek should win, unless she has some sort of like, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there's no reason why Derek should win over Kayla besides personal.
She has those reasons, right? Like, she has those reasons, and if somebody tries to convince her, it's not because she's like jealous of a woman that she's not going to vote for that person. It's probably more just that she has her own opinions and she's not going to be swayed by somebody else.
Look,
and I don't think that we should jump to that conclusion.
I'm not saying that's the only reason, and I'm not saying that is the reason. I'm saying that it's possible that could be an influencer in who she votes for, who any of the girls vote for. I mean, that's just the way it's really unfortunate that that's the way sometimes girls are, but that's sometimes the way girls are. And I think that it especially is that way when you don't have a lot of strong female winners. I think it's easy to vote for a guy because there have been so many guys who have won Big Brother. And I think so that's like, okay, yeah, he's just one of the many. But if you have a strong female winner who will now be lauded as the best female Big Brother player, whatever, some people might say that, then you have other girls who might be like, that should have been me, and I don't want anyone taking that away from me. And it's awful, and I hate it. I hate how girls sometimes do that, and girls should empower each other and lift each other up, but that's just the truth, there's so few women who are winning Big Brother and who are doing great things in Big Brother that they want to be that person and they don't want someone taking it away from them. I'm absolutely not saying that is an exclusively Maddie thing or exclusively Paris thing. I don't even know if that's them at all. I'm just saying I just don't think it's fair. Factor.
I just don't think it's fair to them to automatically ascribe that motivation to them based on I don't think any evidence. And
no, I'm not. I'm not.
I think there's that
they might do that.
I feel like there was a little bit of evidence.
There's a little bit of evidence because they were saying during it, I would never vote for Kayla. I would never vote for Kayla. But then they would sit there and say, like, Kayla's playing a very similar game to what I would hope to play or whatever they said.
They never said that. That question was asked of them. Somebody put those words in their mouth.
No, she's talking about, on the feeds.
On the feeds, Maddie mentioned that. She didn't say, she just like said it offhand. It wasn't like this big reveal or something. But like, there's been like discussion between them that they would never vote for Kayla. And there's just a little bit of evidence, shreds of evidence, not saying that that's what they're going to do at all, not saying that if they vote against Kayla, that they clearly were thinking that, but that could influence them is what I'm saying.
Well, let's table this discussion for a while. Obviously it's speculation, but
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is this discussion doesn't even matter until after we find out the results and all the girls didn't vote for Kayla or something like that. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
I just want to say this really quickly, and maybe you'll push back on this, Taran. But I would expect more from Maddie because there are many people who are fans of the show, some people who are not fans of the show. I feel like she should know better than to vote for Derek here. I mean, Derek is the every guy. Like, you have an opportunity to vote for someone like Kayla, who came through, kicked ass, and took names, or as they say in other places, take ass and kick names, or whatever the hell. What was that joke, Taran? You know what I'm talking about. But I feel like that I would be disappointed if she did. But we'll see. We'll see. She might prove me wrong.
I mean, I just think that I don't think it's fair to judge somebody on their jury vote when their jury vote was inspired by the jury management that the players in the house did with them. Like Derek put a lot of work in with Maddie, and I don't think it's fair to say if she votes for Derek, that means we have to think that maybe she was jealous of Kayla. I think again, we spent 2 hours.
Well, we're gonna say it.
No, I'm just saying, like, I think that if any of the guys decide, like, I think that's always a discussion. It's like if you have a girl there and a guy there who played a similar game to you or whatever, and you decide to vote for the girl, like that could be a discussion. I don't know, but I'm not a guy. I don't know how guys think. Like maybe they're jealous. I don't know, but I'm just saying that is a possibility that we could talk about if that's the way that this all goes down and they can't explain their vote. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think that if Maddie goes up and she says like I would never vote for you, or like she says in the exit interviews later, like I would never vote for Kayla. I don't respect that the way that she played the game. Like I didn't want her to be the representative of our season. Like that's when we can start to say, okay, well, like she's saying that this is her reasoning, and this kind of implies one way or the other. But what she said in the exit interviews leaving the house was that she does respect Kayla's game. She's second most likely to vote for Kayla. She just respects Derek more. And I completely understand why, given the work that Derek put in with her.
Okay.
I mean, it all comes down to the exit press. It all comes down to what happens at the end. Like,
yeah,
I
want to see her. Right. I want to see her explain her game, not you explain her game and she say yes. Like,
exactly. And that's why I'm saying, like, let's hear what Maddie has to say about it before we start to like put it in people's head that if she votes this way, that means it might be this reason. I didn't think that was very fair.
It's going to be just Maddie. I think it's about anybody.
By the way, I would say that Susan has a great point. Susan Swan in the chat said, Maddie went through 62 days of disappointing you, Brent. Why should she change now? LOL. That's very true.
Aw.
All right. Well,
you're right, though, Taran. I don't want people to sit here and, like, accuse Maddie of anything before we know anything, before she's even voted.
And that's one of the reasons why, like, I wanted to stand up for Maddie in this spot, because like a lot of people on Twitter are saying that already. They're saying this is exactly how Maddie feels, and if she votes this way, it only further confirms.
And it honestly could have been anyone. It could have been if Paris had gone out in the Maddie spot. I could have been saying it's about Paris. I could have been saying it's about Olivia or Allie. Who knows? But it's not intended towards Maddie. I just was speaking about it while we were talking about Maddie.
Honestly, Taran, I really do feel like you have to concede that her exit press was, as Doom says in the chat, terrible. Like, it was nonsense to me. Like, I didn't even understand what her ultimate point was and why she was saying she was going to vote the way she was, and she was trying to qualify everything. I'm sure you're going to say that, well, that's being a good juror. You're looking at all sides of everything, but it sounded unintelligent. It sounded unintelligible to me what she was saying.
No, sure. I have no problem with that point. I just don't think that points to anything more sinister than that. Okay. So let's move on. Let's talk.
Let's move on.
Like, ultimately, when it comes down to it, what is the prediction from you two? Brent, who do you think Maddie votes for if Derek brings Kayla to the end?
I think Maddie votes for Derek.
Yeah, I think Maddie votes for Derek.
I
hope she votes for Kayla.
I also think that Maddie votes for Derek. However, I think that Maddie is a vote where if Derek says the wrong thing in the final two and Kayla says the right thing, I do think that Maddie is willing to flip her vote over to Kayla. She talked to me about how she was willing to vote for Kayla over even Paris and Will. I do think that one of the main reasons she wants to vote for Kayla or wants to vote for Derek is because she feels like Derek has been playing Kayla more than Kayla has been playing Derek. But if she hears and believes that Derek was always going to be loyal to Kayla, but Kayla was not necessarily willing to be loyal to Derek, I think there's a very real chance she flips her vote. But that requires a flipped vote in the jury questioning, and I think that's not the most likely thing in the world. So that's why I'm going to stay with Maddie votes for Derek.
Excellent.
So, what do we think Will do? We know very little about Will. We have no exit press from Will. But how do we think he's going to vote? Melissa, what do you think?
He'll vote for Derek.
He'll vote for Derek.
I do think that's likely, but there may also be some kind of, he was pretty mad about the whole veto situation. I don't think it's necessarily a given, but I do think, yes, he is most likely to vote for Derek. And then it finally comes down to Paris, the final vote, according to our predictions, the swing vote. Who do we think Paris votes for if Derek cuts her to take Kayla to the final two? Brent, what do you think?
She votes for Kayla, and Kayla wins 4-3, and my heart is pounding. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I would believe that she would vote for Kayla because Derek cut her. And not only because that, but like that would be on her mind, is that Derek just ruined her chance of getting in the final two. And, I think that she could end up voting for Kayla in that scenario.
Yes, I agree. I think that Derek wins the final 3 HOH, and then Paris is like, you have to cut Kayla to win the game. That's the game-winning move. And Derek says, I'm not going to do that. I'm not willing to do that. And she goes, well, where's your killer instinct? And she gets mad at Derek for not being willing to cut Kayla in the same way that she was mad at Kayla for not being willing to cut Derek. And I think that inclines her to vote for Derek. And I think that Paris will ultimately vote for Kayla. At the very least, I think that either Paris or Maddie, one of them will vote for Kayla. At least one of them will vote for Kayla over Derek, for the reason that Derek takes Kayla to the final two. I do think that Kayla wins this. And you both agree as well that Kayla takes this down.
Yes.
All right. So let's talk about what happens if Kayla wins the HOH and takes Derek to the final two. I think it's basically a very similar outcome with we all agree Ryan still votes for Derek, Allie still votes for Kayla, Johnny still votes for Kayla, Liv still votes for Kayla. And then you guys all agree about that.
Everything else is the same except Paris's vote.
Yes.
I think.
But here's the thing. Yes, I think Maddie is much more likely to vote for Derek in this scenario because it proves to her that, Kayla wasn't willing to cut Derek. I think Will also, if he's voting for Derek before, he's voting for Derek this time. The question is, what does Paris do? And in this situation, we don't have Derek being the person who Paris is mad at for not being willing to cut the showmance. It's Kayla. And so for those same reasons, I think that Paris is more likely to vote for Derek in this spot. And I think that Derek wins. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I mean, unless the jury questioning or the speeches can change people's minds, or unless Johnny can get into people's heads. But external of those factors, I do think Derek takes it.
Yeah, it is taped, and they have a little bit of downtime in between the commercials. And you would think I would have asked a Big Brother contestant by now how much time they have. It's usually, although when we went to the taping, it was pretty much in real time. So I don't know how much time they would have to. I'm talking about the jury to specifically talk. And obviously, if they're trying to talk to Paris, I'll say this. I have believed in Paris all season. I got a little salty with her at Final Five because the way she was acting. But I do believe she would ultimately vote for Kayla if Kayla cuts her. I think it would be tough. I think I think she'd want to be the better person. I think she'd want to be the bigger player and vote for Kayla at the end. At least that's what I'm hoping. That's going to be my prediction. I'm going to say that Paris votes for Kayla, even if Kayla cuts her.
Okay. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really hard one because it really could go either way. I think it really would come down to if she has any discussion with jury members, or if they're somehow able to do a really great job in the jury questioning or the speeches, or even how Kayla or Derek cuts Paris if it comes to it. If they are telling her look, I know there's no way I can beat you because you're an amazing player. You were so good this whole time, then maybe she's like, you know what? I have to give them the respect, blah, blah, blah. So it's totally possible that she votes for Kayla in this scenario, but oh gosh, I don't know. I guess I would say she probably votes for Derek because Kayla cut her, but I don't know.
All right. So Melissa and I say that Derek takes this down 4-3. Brent thinks that Kayla takes it down 4-3. Our first disagreement here. We'll just have to see what happens in that spot. How about this situation? Kayla cuts Derek and takes Paris to the final two. How do we think this plays out? This is obviously a much different situation. Brent,
I can tell you, Kayla wins 10-0, and Canada is standing up applauding, and we're all starting fundraisers to send her even more money after this. No, I'm just kidding. That would be what I want to happen. I do feel like she ends up winning in this case, and I've said this before, because it shows how cold and ruthless she is. She basically plays to type with Ryan specifically. So I don't know if you want to go through the votes again, but if she cuts Derek, I think Ryan ultimately votes for Kayla and is like, damn, I didn't expect that, but good on you, and I guess I gotta vote for you now.
Melissa, what do you think? Who does Ryan vote for if Kayla cuts Derek and brings Paris?
No.
Oh, I thought she was thinking. She was frozen.
Sorry.
Oh, there she is. No. Okay. Your audio went out. Start over, honey. We didn't hear what you said. Yeah, now you're okay.
Ryan would vote for Paris.
I agree. I agree with Melissa. I think that Ryan loves Paris. He hates Kayla. I think it would take a lot for him to ultimately switch that vote. That's
the one I'm most unsure about. I'm sorry, but I think it's I'm like what I want to have happen. I want Ryan to be the better player and the bigger person and vote for Kayla. But I think he's going to. In fact, I'm just going to stick with that. Ryan's going to vote for Kayla. So there you go.
All right. Moving on. I think Allie, Johnny, and Liv, we can all agree they're all voting for Kayla over Paris. You guys agree?
Yes.
All right. Then Maddie, who said that she would vote for Kayla over Paris to me. She talked about campaigning for Paris in the jury house to some other people. She said in particular, one of the main reasons she wouldn't vote for Kayla is that she thinks that Kayla is unwilling to cut Derek. I personally think that Maddie votes for Kayla here. I think that if Kayla makes the move, she cuts Derek. I think that Maddie gives her vote. Brent, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that too. I'm hoping that it's just a train at this point. Everybody's like, okay, we're voting for Kayla. We're voting for Kayla. Voting for Kayla. Although, to be fair, Paris would be a worthy winner. I don't want to. I'm not in a Kayla Paris situation. Even if it did end up being 7-0, in fact, I don't think it would be. But even if it was, it wouldn't be any reflection on Paris's game. I just think Kayla has played that much stronger of a game.
That's so hard. I feel like it depends if the jury talks to Maddie, because they were, I mean, already when Allie was leaving the house, she was like, these two talk crap about you all the time. And I think that if they go into the jury and everyone's like, look, Paris was throwing you under the bus this whole time, then she won't feel so guilty voting against her friend, you know, her really good friend in the house. And so then I could totally see her voting for Kayla. But if she's not really talking to the jury about Paris and they're not really like revealing anything about how Paris would throw under the bus and all that sort of stuff, and how she really wasn't her like greatest ally that she thought she was, then I could see her voting the other way. So I guess I say that she votes for Paris. I don't know. I feel like the jury will talk. So I think maybe she votes for Kayla.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I do. I think that she votes for Kayla in that spot, and could be a very, very important vote there. So moving on to Will, how do we think Will votes in that situation? I think Will votes for Paris. Personally, not much question here.
Yeah, Will votes for Paris.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think it was Stacked in the chat who said that like no one's like, we were getting mad over Maddie potentially voting for Derek over Kayla. Like no one, we don't care about Will because Will sucks. Like we just kind of know like Will's going to disappoint us no matter what. So Will's going to vote for Paris in this situation. Yeah.
Yes, and another reason why I think Maddie might vote for Kayla over Paris is that I think Maddie will probably assume that Derek is also going to vote for Kayla, not knowing that Derek is unwilling to vote for Kayla if she cuts him, and so Maddie will feel like, oh well, Kayla has won the game by cutting Derek, and she only has 2 votes. Paris only has 2 votes at best in Ryan and Will, and if I vote for Paris, I'm just a third vote. I'm not the deciding vote anyway. She may unwittingly not even if she knew that she was the deciding vote, she may be more likely to vote for Paris. Just like, wow, well, Paris worked the jury enough to get half the votes. That's something. But I do think that for the reason that she probably doesn't even realize that Derek won't vote for her, and it probably will be too late by the time that she finds out, I do think that she would vote for Kayla as just another reason on top of all the other reasons. But let's go to Derek. Do we think Derek follows through with his threat? Who does he vote for if Kayla cuts him? Does he vote for Kayla, or does he stick to his word and vote for Paris? Brent, what do you think?
He votes for Kayla. I'm telling you, he's going to vote for Kayla. I don't care what he's saying right now. Again, I've said this before. People walk out onto the stage. You're really going to tell me that in front of all these people with Arissa and the taping people there and the audience there and the studio people there, that you're really going to walk up to the box and put Paris's name in? No, you're going to feel the pressure. You're going to be like, well, I don't want to look like the spoiled brat. I don't want to look like the guy who's butthurt. So I'm going to walk, even though I'm so pissed at her right now, I'm going to walk up there and shove her key in the box and say, congratulations, you won, Big Brother. But he's not going to be happy about it.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure. Yeah, definitely. And I think that
that's my prediction, by the way.
Yeah, I think also the way that Kayla does it would really influence it. Like if she's like very apologetic, but like, look, I had to do it. Like you would have won. Like you would have beat me for sure. Blah, blah, blah. And then like talks up Derek's game and makes him feel good. Maybe he will vote for her.
Yeah, basically the un-Dan Giesling is what she needs to do here.
Yeah.
I think that Derek votes for Paris. I think he sticks to it. I think he's going to be very pissed, and I think that nothing Kayla says is going to make a bit of a difference. In fact, the more Kayla talks, the more pissed he's going to be. And
I can see that too. I can see both. I have no idea. I'm so bad at predictions. I just get convinced by both of you guys, like whoever's speaking.
I know. I've noticed that whichever one of us talks first, you're more likely to agree.
I know. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I just agree with whoever's talking.
My prediction is that Derek votes for Paris here because I think he genuinely is going to be extremely upset, and I don't think he's going to want to come close to voting for Kayla. And I think that for my prediction, that means that Kayla still wins 4-3, and Maddie would be the deciding vote. And I think that's perfect because Paris will just be like, Maddie, I cannot believe you ruined this for me. And it would be the perfect ending to that story, I think. I think my prediction is the best ending to the whole season. Kayla cuts Derek. Kayla still wins because of Maddie. I think that's how it would go. Melissa, you have to make a decision. What does Derek do?
I It's so hard because
Honey, it's not The Price is Right.
I know, but it's like I could see it either way because it's like it just depends how he's feeling at the time. But I could definitely see him being bitter about it and just not voting for her because this whole time when he talks to the cameras and stuff, he's like, Kayla and I are going to make history. We're going to be the first showmans to be there. And so I feel like he thinks that even if he gets second place, he still wins because he's still like the first showmans in history to make it to final 2 or whatever. And I feel like he still thinks he'll be memorable and all this sort of stuff. So I think that he's going to vote for Paris.
Oh,
All right, there you go.
Right. I'm over here on an island. I am.
What did you say Maddie would vote, Melissa?
I don't remember. What did I say? I think I said that Maddie would vote for Paris.
Okay. So according to Melissa, you think that if Kayla cuts Derek and brings Paris, that Paris will win 5-2. Brent, you think Kayla will win 5-2.
I really hope I'm wrong.
I think Kayla will win 4-3. So we are all over the map on that one. It would be very interesting to see that play out.
Just out of curiosity, I'm sorry, because you said that if Kayla cuts Derek, she'll win 4-3. Who was the person that's the fourth Kayla vote in that situation? Maddie. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah. Hopefully there's somebody listening to this who is willing to make a chart that we can tweet out. Yes. So the last realistic situation that we have to talk about, Paris wins the HOH and takes Kayla to the final 2. How do the votes shape out this way? And this is a different situation. So first is Ryan. We disagreed last time. We were a little bit split on where Ryan might vote. But if Paris wins the final HOH and brings Kayla, I think Ryan is even more likely to vote for Paris. I think this is a Paris vote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. I do. I don't think he won't be able to deny her a final 4 HOH and a final 3 HOH and getting herself to the end and breaking up the showmans and taking Kayla. I feel like he'll vote for her at that point.
I agree. Yeah. Then we've got Allie, Johnny, and Liv. Still Kayla votes. I think they're locked in on Kayla no matter what. So I think Kayla is basically a given to be in the final 2 and a given to have 3 votes. It's just, can she get the 4th? And how does she get there? And you guys agree. Johnny, Maddie, Liv, they're all locked in on Kayla.
Yeah.
All right.
100%.
So then Maddie is the vote here again. And, I talked about how Maddie, I think, would give it to Kayla over Paris if Kayla cuts Derek to take Paris there. However, I think that if Paris brings Kayla, Kayla does not prove herself in Maddie's eyes by cutting Derek. And Paris has stepped up at this point, winning 2 competitions in a row to make it to the end. I think in this situation, Maddie votes for Paris. Brent, do you agree?
Yes, actually. I think more than anything that wait, I'm sorry, I was texting. Go ahead.
No, I
want to make sure you were talking about what I thought you were talking about.
Yeah, I think Maddie votes for Paris in this scenario.
Yes, Maddie votes for Paris in this scenario more than anything because she'll have to respect her comp wins.
Yes, and Will also a vote for Paris here. I have to imagine you guys agree.
Yep.
Yes.
Then it comes down to Derek, who in this situation, I believe, would in fact vote for Kayla because Kayla has not cut him. And you guys agree with that?
Yep.
So I agree with that. I think he's voting for Kayla. He's voting for Kayla no matter what. No matter if he's on the jury, he's voting for Kayla.
Yeah.
But I know you don't agree with that, though. I know.
I think it's interesting how close the votes appear to be in every scenario. It's basically 4-3 in most scenarios.
Yes.
Which is weird because I feel like in most of the time it's a landslide. Usually you take an easy person and it's a landslide.
It's the beauty of a 7-person jury.
Yeah,
it really is. Oh my God, Taran, we really need to campaign for this to happen on BB20.
Yes. So ultimately, we all agree. Paris bringing Kayla. Kayla ends up winning 4-3. I will say there is one small little thing that I think might get in the way here. If Maddie is questioning Kayla in the final 2 speeches and she's saying, Kayla, were you planning on cutting Derek at the final 3? And if Kayla feels like, oh, I need to answer this correctly to Maddie in order to get Maddie's vote and disregards Derek's vote, and she says, yes, I was planning on doing it, I think that might piss Derek off enough, not nearly to the extent that he would be pissed off if she actually did it, but there's a small chance that he goes, wait a minute, what? Excuse me? You were planning on cutting me? And I think there's a chance that he may flip his vote at that point and Paris could win. However, I think that is not the most likely outcome. I think that Kayla still is the most likely winner there.
Wow, I didn't even really consider that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because usually I think that these final 2 speeches and stuff don't really make much of a difference. I think people are pretty set. But I could see something like that because Derek truly believes in us. He's been talking to the cameras going, like, I would never cut you at the final 2. This is real life to me. So if she says in an effort to get Maddie's vote, she might not get Maddie's vote and also lose Derek's vote. That would be heartbreaking. Oh, Kayla, be careful.
Yes. So we're all in agreement there. Lots of different interesting situations. I really want to see this charted out at some point. So there's 2 more situations. These are the very unlikely situations. The one we said are not likely to happen. So let's not go over each individual vote, but let's get a glimpse of how we think this would go down if for whatever reason it happens. If Paris wins the final HOH and does in fact bring Derek to the end, who do we think ultimately wins that matchup? I think I would probably go with Derek there.
Me too.
Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I think Derek wins in that scenario.
Wow, that's tough. I'm just sorry. I just want to think of the votes really quickly. So Ryan would vote for Paris, and I think if Paris won and took Derek to the end, I think Maddie, even though she said she would vote for Derek, I feel like she would vote for Paris in this situation because she got herself to the end and she split up the showmance and sent Kayla to the jury. So that's a second vote. Will is a third vote. And I don't think that Johnny would want to vote for Derek because he's the straight white privileged male. So that's the fourth vote. So I think that Paris wins 4-3 against Derek if she takes him.
I do think that's plausible. The way I see it, it's similar to Kayla beating Paris if Paris takes Kayla. I think that in that spot, Maddie would be more likely to vote for Derek than she would Kayla in the same spot. But at the same time, you've got Johnny, who is more likely to vote for Paris than he would vote for the Paris if she was against Kayla. So I think it ultimately kind of evens itself out with Maddie being more likely to vote for Derek and Johnny being more likely to vote for Paris. I still think that Derek has the edge here, but it's still, it's an unlikely situation to happen in the first place, but still a very close one.
And I hear what you're saying about Maddie as far as in terms of what she said about wanting to vote for Derek or having a preference for that, even over Paris. So even disregarding what she said in the House. But, again, you have to take into consideration the circumstances here. Like, they're all coming out. They're all greeted by the audience. They're all feeling good about themselves. She sees her girl Paris up there going, oh, I love you so much. Like, she ain't voting against her, Taran. She's not voting against her, against Derek in a final 2 situation. I don't think this situation is going to happen anyway. But if Paris did take Derek to the end, I think she wins.
But I also think that I still think that Johnny isn't likely to vote for Paris over Derek, even though he said he said to me that he would vote for Derek over Paris and Maddie. They've been trash talking Paris in the jury house. Every video that they've released, they've been trash. The trio of Johnny, Ali, and Liv have been talking bad about Paris.
If she can show, hey, look, I won Final 4 HOH, I won Final 3 HOH, that was no joke. I cut the showmance, I cut the biggest competitor this season, the one that you guys all wanted on the jury. I put her there as the 7th juror. Give me the damn money. Like, my speeches always sound better than the ones that these people give anyway. So
also Paris could argue that she won when she needed to win if she wins both these upcoming ones, because she'll say, like, look, I was never in danger before this. I didn't need to win, but when I needed to win, I did.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's close, and I think that Johnny could go either way, though I think he would lean toward Derek, and I think that Maddie could go either way as well, but I think she would also lean toward Paris. But that would mean a Derek win if I was right in both instances. So I do think Derek would take that home, but again, it would be close, and it's a tough call. And then the final situation, Derek cuts Kayla and brings Paris to the end. Extremely unlikely to happen, but if he did it, would he win the game? That's actually kind of a tough tough question. I will say, I think Kayla does vote for Derek. I think that Kayla will not be bitter, and if that is the case, then I do think Derek wins the game here. But it's a tricky situation, and the vote could theoretically go either way. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that I think Derek wins in that scenario because I think Kayla would still vote for him because she wouldn't. I don't think she'd be bitter.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Upset, but I don't think she'd be bitter.
Yeah, she'd be like what I predicted Derek would be like. She'd be upset, but she wouldn't be bitter, and she would still put his key in the box.
Yeah, and I think, Derek could easily do, I think, what Kayla unfortunately couldn't do with Derek, just because Derek doesn't care as much about the relationship, theoretically, which is that Derek can be like, look, I said what I had to say to make sure you didn't cut me, but you taught me this. This is the game of Big Brother, and I knew I couldn't win if I was sitting next to you, so I had to do this. But after the game, we're gonna get together. It's gonna be fine. Like, John and Netta, and she's gonna be very mad, but I think she's gonna say, hats off. I will give you my vote. So that is, I think, one of the more likely scenarios where Derek wins. So we could be looking at a spot where if Derek wins the HOH, we could be saying that Derek, of all people, missed his shot. He should have cut Kayla and didn't. And there you go. That ends Derek's reign of terror on the house. So that's our predictions. Alexandra, who does the wonderful Stock Watch chart, said that she was keeping a tally there and was making a chart for these predictions. So follow us on Twitter at Armstrong Taran, at One Lucky Guy, and at It's Melissa with 3 A's. We will be tweeting out this chart if you want to see it in chart form. So that'll be fun to look at. But let's get into the aforementioned Stock Watch. Supersized roundtable for the last one of the season, but we need to finish up the Stock Watch. This is our last round, and I'll pull up the chart in just a second. But the first person we should talk about, Kayla, has her stock risen or fallen since this time last week? What do you think, Brent?
Obviously, I think it's risen. I just want to ask beforehand, because I take these things seriously. So in what order are we buying these and trading these? Because I feel like that sort of matters a little bit. I'd prefer to go last. I feel like that also it would be good to reset like who has what currently. But I have
a few questions about this stock watch right now. Because I kept my Will stock so I could trade them out and keep one on each of the people, and now we're saying that Will doesn't count anymore.
No, I think for the purposes of this,
I'm being, shafted in this one. But and one other thing is that the subreddit Stock Watch is still allowing trades of Will. So I'm just saying,
I would allow
with the subreddit.
Look, as I said earlier, nothing is official until you're back. I wondered why you were frozen, Taran. She's bemoaning about the fact that she can't trade her Will stock away since we've been saying Will's evicted. But I would like to tell her that nothing is official until Larissa says it's official. And even though she kind of opened her mouth a little bit, she didn't do it on the show. So if you want to trade away your Will stock, you're more than. I mean, I'm totally cool with it. I don't have a problem with it.
I went to share my screen and the whole thing crashed. So
okay.
Hopefully that doesn't happen again. But here, okay. So the call I made was we know Will is gone from the house. I think it's insider trading. We've been talking about the final three, but most importantly, it doesn't make a bit of difference. It doesn't matter if you trade from Will or if you trade from whoever you want to trade from. I calculated every single possible move you could make. There is no difference whatsoever.
All I'm saying is I was trying to keep the most stock on the board and win in that way in the end. Not win the whole thing, but win in my own little way. I was trying to lose the least amount of stock throughout the season.
I agree. And but you know what? This is majority rules. We live in America. Hello.
Oh, yeah, sure. I just figured we're not going to be talking about Will in the Stock Watch. We're not going to say he went up or down to pretend that he's still in the house.
What if he is still in the house, though? What if all the spoilers are wrong?
That would be the face crack of the century.
Then the entire podcast is invalid, unfortunately. I just figured there are so little chances to lose stock in the first place. I think it would be silly to give it up, especially in a spot where there's it makes no bit of difference regardless. But if you guys want the stock, you can have the stock.
No, it's fine. I don't want to talk about Will.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. I'm going to try to bring this chart up one more time. If it crashes again, then I'll give up on it. I promise.
Okay.
So here we go. There it is. Oh,
Nice.
all right. So here we go. Kayla's stock. Did we finish talking about Kayla? Has it gone up or down?
We say up.
We say up.
I agree. I think that Kayla is the most likely winner at this point. It skyrocketed last week. It continues to go up. And now we've lost
We lose Brett. All right, can we do it this time where we say up or down for the three of them, and then we like trade at the very end, or do we have to trade on each person?
So I had two different thoughts about this. We can do this two different ways. We can all and I'll wait until Brent gets back. Okay, so Brent, how I was feeling about the order in which we do this. There's two different ways that we can do it. We can either all go in blind and make our picks, before we hear from the other people, right? So,
so like the honor system.
Well, you guys would send it. I can like write it down on a piece of paper, and then you guys can send them into me, and so then I will know like these are not based on what the other people did, or we can just kind of go through each person and then kind of discuss like, all right, if you're going to do this one, then I'm going to do this one, and try to figure out like who wants to essentially take which person. I think the second option is more fun.
Okay.
But if you guys feel differently, then we can do it differently.
No, this is totally cool. Actually, I just noticed that, Melissa, you do have the most stock on the board anyway.
Yeah, I had another one too, and then I was gonna put it. I was gonna have a lot of stock on the board.
You still do it.
Yeah, you still win in terms of the most amount of stock left on the board. If you want to make that up as a win condition.
Yeah, I'm gonna make that up as a condition. It's whoever has the most stock on the board at the end wins the whole thing.
There you go. So we all agree Kayla is up. Derek is the next person we should talk about. I think that we said Derek's stock had skyrocketed at this time last week.
I think everybody's up. I'm sorry, I don't mean to like skip over everything, but I think Derek's up, and I think Paris is up. Like
yeah,
I'm so
actually, yeah.
I will actually.
Go ahead.
I will actually say that I think it's. Although I don't know, it's tough because Will going out at the final four instead of Paris definitely changed some things. I think it made Kayla more likely to take Derek, which is a spot where he might be able to win. But it also eliminated the possibility of Will winning and taking Derek, which I think was an easy win for him. I'd say I don't know. I think I felt better about Derek's chances before Paris won the HOH. I think that was a big step up for Kayla.
Yeah, you talked me into it. Yeah, I'm going to change my vote. So I apologize. I didn't think hard enough about it. Yeah, I actually, on balance, compared to where they were last week and now this week, I felt much better about Derek's winning chances because I thought for sure that he would have an ace in the hole with Will, and that ace in the hole is not there anymore. So I would probably have to rate him slightly down, although I still feel very positive about his game.
All right,
I'm just still going to stick with up just because I just think he's in a good spot to win.
He is for sure. And we might try and adjust this so that there's like a more visual way of saying like it's way up. It's so we can track the relativeness of the position. And then Paris, we all said her stock was down. She was the most likely person to leave last week if she didn't win that final four HOH, but she did. I think it's very clear. Her position from last week has gone way up.
Up.
Yeah, up for sure. But did you see that chart on Reddit? Where it tracks the different people in like in a graph in terms of I feel like that's pretty cool visually to see.
Right. That's what inspired me to be like, oh, let's be a little more accurate with this because we said we're saying that Derek is down this week, which on a chart that doesn't track the relative position of where he was before is like, oh well, that means he's like in a bad position or a worse position. But I think Derek is in a better position than Paris, but Paris is up this week and Derek is down this week. So I think there's a better way to track that visually if we want a more accurate representation of where we see people throughout the game. So I'm gonna ruminate on that.
We'll workshop that.
Well, I also think it was cool to see in that chart that was going around Reddit where like Olivia, when she went out, she was on a high. She went out on the highest one. And so that was pretty interesting to see that that's the week she went out. And it's cool to track like where everyone goes out, because some people go out when they're way at the bottom and it makes sense that they would leave. But then people like Olivia, like it doesn't make any sense that they would leave that week, but then yet they do.
I think what they said was that every single person that was evicted except for Olivia had been rated in the at 0 or negative by the time that they were evicted. So we were pretty spot on in terms of that. But again, it's hard to track it accurately without a more relative position on the board. So we each have the ability to sell one share of stock and trade one share of stock and buy one share of stock. Basically, how the positioning is working right now is that I have 3 shares of Kayla. I'm in the lead with Kayla. Essentially, if I decide to trade the one other stock I have in Derek and buy Kayla, nobody can surpass me in Kayla shares because Melissa is in second with 2 and Brent is at third with Kayla with 0 shares of Kayla. However, Brent and Melissa are currently tied with Derek shares at 2 apiece, and I only have 1. So I could not catch up with Derek stock if they decided to stay with the Derek stock. Brent is in the lead with Paris stock at 2, where Melissa has 1 and I have 0. So this is really all about just like who is going to decide to go all in on which person and what that means for everyone else. So this is a free trading environment.
Yeah, I can say I'll definitely say affirmatively that I'm going to use my last opportunity to buy and say I'm going to buy some Derek stock. So change my Derek number from 2 to 3, and I may end up deciding to trade away if anything else happens.
There you go. Melissa, do you want to react to that? Do you want to also buy Derek to make sure that you are in line with Brent here? Or do you want to try to sneak up? Now, this gives you the opportunity to potentially tie or potentially surpass Paris's stock if you wanted to do that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you could tie me and Derek.
Or you could tie me with Kayla and try to surpass me with Kayla. Like you essentially have the pick of the litter here. Who do you want to take a shot at here? Do you want to keep tied with Derek? Do you want to tie up with Paris, or do you want to tie up with Kayla?
I wouldn't trust him about the Kayla thing.
Yeah, I feel like the Kayla thing, because there's a chance that I could tie with Brent with Derek, but there's no chance I can tie with you with Kayla because you're probably there's no point in you.
I am not letting
Derek.
go of Kayla. Yeah.
So you're going to trade your Derek and buy a Kayla.
Yeah. Kayla's off the board for us. So we have to, you need to pick a horse here. Do you want to try it? Because I'm at least in the lead on Derek. You can tie me if you want to buy Derek stock right now. There's
no real way for me to win unless you decide to trade off of Paris, which I don't think you will, because you're already going to win with Derek.
Or at least a joint win with you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're either going to win or tie. So really, I'm in a bad position. And I'm just going to blame you guys for making it so that way I can't. If I just had my Will stock, you know.
It was the same either way, I promise.
No. It wasn't the same. I'm just going to say that.
The stopwatch has turned into Secret Hitler, says Doomshot.
I know, right? Melissa, just buy Derek stock with me, and then we'll be joint winners, and we'll laugh at Taran when he loses.
That's actually a good point, because then it really just takes away from a Taran win if Derek ends up winning the game.
Thank you.
Which he has done with me and Kayla. So I'm gonna buy a Derek stock, which brings me to 3 Dereks.
Yay!
All right. So
I think you should. I mean, just trying to help you out here, but I think you should trade away one of your Kayla stocks, since it's basically worthless, since Taran's not going to let you have that, and you should trade one of your Kayla stocks for a Paris stock, because then you'll have 2 with me, and I don't have any stocks to trade because I'm blocked out. So, make sense or not?
Yeah, unless you're going to now trade Paris to Derek, and then you're trying to trick me so that you can win Derek.
No, I'm leaving things where they are.
Yeah. Well, once you can like if you make a deal about like let's do this, then you can go back and be like, oh well, no, if you're gonna do that, then never mind, I won't do this.
Yeah, this is all. I don't know if I trust you guys on this one.
No. I'm saying things are set where they are. Yeah. So I have 3 Derek stocks and 2 Paris stocks. Period. End of story.
Brent is locked in.
Yeah, then I guess I'll trade a Kayla to a Paris.
That would be a wise move.
All right. In that
now
case,
I win either way, no matter who wins.
And so with that being said, I will go ahead and buy a Derek and trade one of my Kayla for Derek to tie you both with Derek.
Well, you said you weren't going to do that. You said you're not letting go of Kayla.
I said I'm
And
not going to let anybody surpass me with Kayla. I'm sorry if you misunderstood.
Yeah, I misunderstood that. Like, I thought you were just gonna like you're putting out all your chips on Kayla. Like, I mean, if you're gonna do that, then obviously.
Yeah, wait, you're trading a Kayla? Because then I would put my stuff on Kayla. This is
now.
See,
me and Melissa were honorable. You're dishonorable.
Yeah,
like,
this is dishonorable because I would have put both of my ones on Kayla.
I did not. Go back, all the listeners, go back and listen to. I said nothing
at the chat.
about.
The chat is saying.
The chat is not saying anything. I did not. I had not made a single move yet.
This is the thing. We can fix this, Melissa.
Exactly.
So Melissa and I haven't done squat. Taran, you do what you want first.
Yeah,
go ahead
Taran,
and
you go
do your moves first.
You go first, Taran.
What I literally said just a second ago was, if somebody decides to make a move, trades are not final. You can go back and say, oh, well, if you're going to do that, then I'm going to change my mind and do something else.
We change our mind.
Okay,
if
we
you decide to
mind.
change your mind, that's totally fine.
Okay, now you go. Now you put your chips all over the table. You put your cards on the table, and then we'll judge what we're going to do.
Right. That's what I just did. I said I'm going to, given the moves that you made, I was going to trade one of my Kayla and buy into Derek. And
I feel like this is a whoever moves last sort of scenario where it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to see what everyone else does first, and then I'll make my move.
So I'm telling you, don't ever play Secret Hitler with Taran. It's no fun.
You know what we should have done is like written down our picks beforehand and like tweeted them out or something.
That is an option.
No. I mean, like before this, like, so that way none of us could change our answers. Like, we need to all like tweet them at exactly the same time or something.
Well, that's
so that
what
way,
I said, like that we could go in blind. But I think this is more fun personally. So if you guys don't want me to be able to do that, then you can change your picks and we can shift this back around.
Okay, you go first.
You go first.
Well, again, that would be the move that I'd make, of course.
If we made those moves. So what are your moves going to be?
Right. Again, what I'm saying is that if you try to tie me on Kayla, I will always buy another Kayla. You can't beat me on Kayla, but you can prevent me if you want to sacrifice your own shares and your own stock in either Paris or Derek. You can prevent me from tying you with Derek by forcing me to buy more Kayla. So you can do that, or you can leave it where it is. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'm a little lost. I mean, basically, we can do something until we don't do something. Like,
so, like, for instance,
seems nonsensical.
You can do it or you don't do it. What do you pick?
Melissa decided there's no way she's going to be able to even tie me with Kayla stock, so she might as well trade that to Paris to tie you with Paris. She can decide not to do that and let you have Paris in order to prevent me from tying with Derek. So it's one of those what's the word for a zero-sum game?
Okay, but have you decided?
Melissa, what do you want to do?
The chat is telling me to use my will stock, but I don't have will stock anymore. They got rid of it.
It wouldn't have made a difference.
All right, I feel like we're in the weeds, but
no, because if I use that, then I can get 2 on Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And then put my will stock on Derek.
No, but you can't do 3 things. You can only use 2 things.
You can only trade 1.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I would put my initial one on Derek and then trade my will for Paris.
But then it doesn't matter because you're either taking
Kayla stock there, and I still get to have my Derek and Paris tied with you, Brent.
Yeah, but like the thing is that your Kayla stock is always going to be second to Taran. So
yeah, no, I'm not going to win on Kayla, but then Taran won't switch his Kayla stock or else I will be tied with him.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so what she's saying is that she wants to go back on the rule we've made.
Yes.
Will stock.
I said she could trade her will stock. This is a democracy. Again,
go ahead.
All right. Then I put my will stock on Paris and I buy a Derek. So I have 3, 2, 2.
I like it.
So in that case, I'm going to trade my Derek and buy a Paris to tie you both with Paris.
How are you gonna? So you're gonna buy a Paris, and you're gonna and trade for a Paris.
Trade my Derek into Paris. Yes.
Okay, and so then I need to buy a Paris and leave it there.
So you're going to instead buy Paris. You're going to buy Paris instead of Derek and let Melissa have the lead on Derek.
It's so hard when we're looking at it and it's not changing in real time.
Right.
Like, we're just
I know. I wish it could change.
No, I'm gonna stick with my pony because I picked her first in the draft and I just want to make it easy. So I'm going to buy Paris and I'm going to trade my Derek stock away and buy more Paris. So now I have 4 Paris stocks, 1 Derek stock. Period. Point blank in the period.
Okay. Melissa, are you?
Wait, you have 4 Derek. Wait,
no, I have 4 Paris. I have 4 Paris.
He's going all in on Paris.
All in on Paris, and nobody can catch
wait a minute. Yeah, all in on Paris.
Yeah.
Okay, and Taran, you have
Kayla.
I have So basically,
2 Kayla and 2 Paris, or no, 3 Kayla. I don't know.
I might end up changing based on what you do again, so you might as well. Just do you want to try and tie Brent with Paris, or are you sticking with?
No, I'm gonna stick with 3-2-2.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So yes, that makes sense. In that case, I will buy another Derek, and I will be behind Melissa with Derek. Brent will have Paris, and I have Kayla. We each have one of the people. No ties. If Kayla wins, I win the stock watch. If Derek wins, Melissa wins the stock watch. If Paris wins, Brent wins the stock watch. I hope this was interesting, at least for most of it, to listen to. I recommend checking out the YouTube video.
Oh,
we
wait.
have the chart up here.
Wait, now that I'm looking at it, I want to switch mine.
Oh my god.
But just consider that
on Kayla, because then I'm tied.
But just consider if you switch yours, then he's.
I will just switch mine. The Derek buy was
it's a 0-sum
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
this is just gonna go on forever. I'll just keep mine.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good. The point is, again, Derek, Melissa has Derek, I have Kayla, Brent has Paris, and in the draft, I have Derek, Melissa has Kayla, and Brent has Paris again. So Brent is going all in on Paris.
All in on Paris. But that's a dubious.
Yeah, Paris wins. Brent, you were like the sole winner. If either of the other 2 win, then Taran and I get to kind of share a win. But for Paris, it's all you.
It's all about me, honey. That's it. Maisie in the chat is like, Taran's strategy, wear them down.
Yeah, make them too exhausted.
Secret Hitler is like, it takes me back to Secret Hitler and Taran talking. Like, I don't know how many times Taran can tell me something with a straight face and secretly be plotting against me behind his eyes. It's absolutely delicious.
It's a lot of fun. You should really check out the Secret Hitler streams if you haven't. It's a lot easier to follow than this. So if you enjoyed the spirit of this, you will love Secret Hitler. All right. So that is the finale of the Stock Watch. I hope it was appropriately messy and wonderful and argumentative. And I think a good result too. That is the Stock Watch. Let's get to some final questions before we wrap this up here. The first one comes from Gregory McBean. What should Big Brother Canada learn from this season? Are there things they tried that we liked or things that we didn't like? Brent, let's start with you. What do you think? Is there anything that they should, never mind. Let's start with Melissa. Melissa, is there anything?
I'm good. I just accidentally hit my laptop and hurt my finger real quick. I think the things that they did great were a great cast. I think they would needed a little bit more drama, a little bit more crazy people. I think that's honestly why they put Veronica in the house. But the one thing that they did the most that I liked was the least amount of twists since season 2, and the 7-person jury. I think really adds a lot to what we're discussing. Honestly, I feel like if it was a 9-person jury, and we've had 5 to 4 2 seasons on Big Brother US with 9-person juries. So I guess maybe I'm talking out my ass, but I feel like a 7-person jury is a little bit more intimate and people wield more power with their impulses, and thus it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Brent. I like all those 3 things. Things I didn't like were that them trying to create their own narrative in the episodes rather than just showing us what actually happened. And also the whatever, the gate crashers in the beginning. I feel like that I just hate those things.
Such a dud.
I hate it.
I will co-sign too, Melissa, the narrative. And here's the thing. It's one thing if you're like sometimes like BBUS where there's a lot of stuff happening and they pick like the most important narrative and they decide to show you that and they leave other things on the table. I felt like this season Big Brother Canada just created things out of whole cloth. Like there were things that they were showing that were not in concert or in sync with reality, and that's when I was like, y'all need to hire some new people. And
they were like trying to create a hero or trying to create their lead character when really they weren't the lead character at all, and it was more of an ensemble piece, and instead they were trying to create this narrative around one person or two people or whatever, and then that person would leave and they'd be left with nothing. So they just need to go off of what is actually happening and show us what's going on.
Yeah, I said this last night, but going into Wednesday's episode, Hamza still has more diary rooms on the show than Derek, which is insane. Hamza, as I believe, like I might still have the tab open somewhere. Hamza is in 9th place. Derek in 11th in diary rooms.
Yeah, I'm sure he's gonna rack up those Instagram followers.
Yeah, which is just crazy, given how involved Derek has been in the game. We spoke for 2 hours about everything that Derek was doing over the course of the season, and Hamza was out week 3, 4. That's crazy. They really just go all in on particular people. So I agree. The edit is a bad thing. The gate crashers, the twist that they did use, I feel did negatively impact the show. There were some benefits to them. I wouldn't say it's all negative. I think they made for exciting episodes, but they ultimately did lead to a sort of disjointed ending on the feeds and in the episodes. The ratings have gone significantly down ever since the Canada Save episode, and I don't think that's a coincidence. So the twist that they did have, I think, were not great ones, but there were only 2 of them, so that's a positive. I think the casting was a positive, and so overall, I'm pretty positive on the season. But there are, of course, things that they should continue to do. The 7-person jury is another one, and things that they should stop doing. Greta, go ahead.
The one thing that they should stop doing, and you would think that they would realize this after 6 seasons, they need to do live shows on Thursday. Taran, they are totally capable of doing this. Arissa and her team, totally capable of doing a live show. In fact, they basically do what's called live to tape, where they are taping basically in real time as if it were a live show. So they are totally capable of doing that. I don't know why they don't. Their Thursday shows are consistently the least rated of any day of the week. And also the fact that they don't show who is the HOH gains them absolutely nothing. I don't know why they do that. And that's another reason why I don't tune into Thursday shows. If I'm not on a Thursday show, sometimes I just don't watch them. I'm just putting that out there. I watch the feeds, but I don't watch the Thursday show. That's why I didn't know about stuff that happens sometimes, because I'm like, I don't care about the Thursday show because there's nothing here for me to see except for an inflated narrative of something that isn't really happening in the house right now. So I really wish that they would stop doing the pre-taping on Thursdays and instead go to something live, because I think it would be a better show, a better product, and then there would be some reason for people to tune in if they could see who the winner of the HOH was.
Yeah, I think if one of your most dedicated fans is skipping episodes, that's not a good sign.
And in terms of something that I really liked that I hope they do more of was showing the endurance comp on the feeds. That was great, and I really hope they continue with that trend. Something that I don't like that they were doing was not showing any of the parties on the feeds. Like, they need to show something, and then they can't sit there and say, like, wow, what a great party. Didn't you love watching it? It's like, no, we didn't, because we didn't see it. So they need to start showing more of that.
Yes.
It really comes down to show us more stuff on the live feeds. Like, I mean, show us the first week. Show us the diary room sessions that they did for BBOTT. Show us fun stuff like that. I would love it.
Yeah, I don't mean to belabor the point, but that's the one thing I wish I don't understand why they don't do this. It's Big Brother Over the Top did this thing where they did live diary rooms and they had these pre-written questions. So you didn't hear a producer talking. It was basically like pre-written questions in the diary room. They would go into the diary room. And occasionally we've heard leaks in the diary room. So I know they're totally capable of doing this. Just turn on the camera in the diary room and show the house guests giving us their unfiltered opinions. It would be so great to hear from somebody like Johnny or Derek or Kayla early on in the season to see what they were really thinking. Of course, Paris talked to the cameras all the time, but other people did not. And it's so easy to do, and it's so quick. Taran, I don't understand why they don't replicate that success. I really don't.
So easy.
Yeah, I mean, I will say in terms of the live shows, and somebody brought this up in the chat. I'm sorry, the name has gone by now, but the reason I think that they don't do it live, but they do it live to tape, is that they are very, very image conscious. They are worried about I think sponsors and about how the public will view them, and so they're worried about like what happens if something goes wrong. First of all, and then we look stupid. Or somebody says something that's bad and we're not able to cut it in time or bleep it in time. I agree that it's I disagree with the reasoning. I agree that I think it's dumb, but I think that is the reasoning. I don't think we're ever going to make any headway on that until they ditch the sponsors and they have some better way of financing the show. In terms of showing the HOH, I think that is something that they can and should do. And the live diary rooms, I agree also is something they can and should do. But I think that's another thing of just like, it doesn't benefit them in any way. It makes us happy, but that is not a line that they're trying to move, right? Like they just don't care, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just another thing that is something that I would hope they would change is doing less of the giant long form commercials and more of the adding in the sponsors to more of a game sense in terms of like competitions, or even the Wendy's thing is fine when they invite someone to get Wendy's. But mostly I would like it if they just relegated them to competitions and did not do the whole Hasbro like game night where we just watch them play boring games.
Perfection. I love Perfection.
Yeah.
I
my
love that
God,
game.
it's my favorite game. No one's ever heard of it.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to, we have a question from Ali Beck who asks, do you think Kayla realizes she's more into Derek? And this is speculation on this person's part, but do you think Kayla realizes that she's more into Derek than he is into her? If/when they don't work out after the show, will she regret not cutting him? So this obviously is assuming that Kayla doesn't cut Derek and that Derek is in fact not as into the relationship as Kayla is. Do we think that this is something that she's going to be like, man, what a mistake I made. I really regret this. Melissa, what do you think?
To be fair, Kayla has always called Derek her friend and her best friend, and didn't say like that she felt like she was in love or that she really liked him or that she hopes they date outside the show. So it's absolutely possible that like Kayla is doing a lot of this for game, and she knows that she needs Derek to take her to the end, and he's saying he is, but she has to keep up this whole like, yeah, you have to take me, we'll be a showmance in the end, da da da. So I don't really see it as that Kayla is just totally blinded by love and is so into him and she expects them to like get married or something like that. Like I don't really buy that. So I do think that, I mean, maybe she's playing him and she thinks he's not playing her. I don't know, but I don't know if it's necessarily like she's so much more into him than he is into her. I think she really is focused on the game.
I don't think she'll regret it, and here's why. I think that she is willing to cut Derek. I think if she was like, oh, I need to cut Derek, but I can't do it because I feel too strongly about him, and then the relationship didn't work out, she may at that point be like, I kind of regret that. But I think that she is going to make the decision she makes based on a strategic decision. I think that taking Derek is the best way to win this game because Derek will be bitter, so on and so forth. And because of that, she's going to be like, look, I made the best decision I could in the moment. I can't regret it. Yeah. I don't think she's going to regret the decision.
I don't think she's going to regret it unless she loses to him.
Well, that's obviously a given if she's regretting the decision.
Yeah.
She regrets it even if she wins.
Yeah.
She's like, darn it, I shouldn't have taken him.
We have a question from the franchise who asks, do you think the show gets renewed and would you say it deserves to?
First of all, yes, it definitely deserves to. And I hate how everyone's saying that I wouldn't sign a petition for Big Brother Canada. Like, get out of here. Are you serious? You just out of spite, you wouldn't want to see another season of Big Brother? Come on. It absolutely deserves to make it through for another season, and I would absolutely love to see it for another season, and I really, really hope it does.
Yeah, I think it also is going to make it through another season. I don't think they built a house for one season. I could be wrong, but I don't think they did. Obviously, this is a new house they're in, even though it's basically the same layout. And I think that we're going to get at least one more season of Big Brother Canada. So here's hoping.
Yeah, I agree. The ratings did drop off quite a bit toward the end, but I think the ratings were strong enough throughout most of the season that we will probably be seeing the show back. And I do, of course, think it deserves it. Alex asks, can Kayla challenge John as the best winner of Big Brother Canada? Brent, what do you think?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think yes. I'm going to say yes. I think that she's just. I guess I'm having trouble backing it up with evidence. That's the problem. I mean, like she has the comp wins. She has, Final 7 HOH, Final 5 HOH, Final 5 veto, Final 4 veto, and presumably if she gets there, maybe not, but hopefully Final 3 HOH. I feel like that combined with the fact that she was in a showmance the entire time, could put her at the top of the Big Brother Canada winners list. I think that John was, he made a great move at the end with Netta, but I always felt like Netta was pulling the strings in terms of strategy. So I've never given John maybe the credit that perhaps he deserves. So I guess I would feel a little bit more positive because I do feel that Kayla has, again, the woman pulling the strings in the relationship. I feel like that Kayla has done more here.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, maybe I'm misremembering this, but I feel like Kayla got herself out of danger more often than John did. But maybe I'm misremembering that. All I know is that I do think that she could definitely challenge him.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just feel like Kayla was like going home. Like we all thought she was gone and then she wasn't. And, I felt like it was pretty miraculous. But I do think that she can challenge him. I think that that John had Netta working with him, whereas Kayla has Derek working with her. And I think that Kayla has a lot more of the strategy, whereas Derek has a lot of social. I don't feel like Kayla had someone who was on par with her strategically helping her get to the end, whereas I feel like John had Netta.
Yeah, that's really important about the fact that she saved herself there. Okay, and I hear you, Doom, in the chat. Kayla had little to do with saving herself. I don't co-sign that. I know that Allie was an abysmal nominee. I get that. But on the other hand, Kayla did promise the world to people who continually came back to her over and over and over and over again. Para saying, hey, are you going to promise me this? Are you sure? Are you going to go back on your word? Are you going to do this? Emphatically, every time Kayla gave the correct answer, where you've got Allie over there saying, don't put me in that situation. I can't promise you this kind of thing right now. Why are you asking me things like that to people that she needs to vote for her? So I feel like you have to give credit where it's due and say, it was the Dan Giesling moment where you think that somebody's going home and then it's a 6-0 vote the other way for them to stay. So, yeah. Or it wasn't 6-0.
No.
But, they stay 4-1.
To her credit, she never gave up. There was never a time when she was like, you know what, I'm just going to throw in the towel, or even just like, well, we'll see where things lie. She always was like, okay, who do I talk to now? What should I say to this person? When do I go talk to them? Should I go talk to her now? Should I let her be? What do I do? And the people there were many arguments had that week as well. And Kayla was still able to come out on top.
She kept her cool. I know, Taran, the Dan Giesling moment was obviously Johnny with 6-0 the other way when you think he's definitely going home. And I would look, if he was in the final 3, I would give him credit for that. But the fact is, Kayla's here. And, maybe it isn't a Dan Giesling moment, but it's like Dan Giesling Jr., where you definitely think somebody's going home and then somehow against all odds, they stay. And because they did, because they played Big Brother right and because their opponent played Big Brother wrongs. Sometimes it's as simple as that.
Well, I see. So in comparing Kayla to John, I look at what John was able to do with the Gremlins and getting them to boot Arlie when it was clearly against their best interests. That is a high level social strategic move. I didn't really see Kayla do any of that. Yes, she did manage to save herself. I think that she deserves credit for surviving the block. She did a lot of things right. However, she wasn't necessarily convincing anybody to do things that were were against their own best interest. When Paris looks at Allie saying, I'm mad at you, and Kayla saying, I'll promise you the world, it's not exactly like, it's not like she's selling ice to Eskimos. But it's still impressive. It's still very good stuff. I do think that Kayla deserves a lot of credit over John when it comes to the fact that she is very willing to cut her showmance. John was not willing to do that. And if John doesn't have the realization at the end of the game, then he still loses. If Netta is maybe a little bit more on top of him at the end of the game, maybe he doesn't cut. Maybe he doesn't end up cutting her. Maybe he loses the game. So I think in terms of awareness, Kayla has won over on John with that regard. I think that John's jury management, though, has been better than Kayla's. So I do think it's a bit back and forth in terms of who is the better winner. I think we have to see how it plays out, see how the jury responds to Kayla. And I do think that, to answer the question, yes, I think that she can challenge John as the best Big Brother Canada winner. But I have to see how it plays out before I'm willing to commit to that.
I have to see how it plays out as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And she has to win, obviously.
Yeah, she has to win.
Adrian Chan wants to know, can Kayla justify taking Derek to the end by revealing that the only reason she did so was because Derek said that he would be a bitter juror and would be unwilling to vote for her if she was sitting in the final two after having cut him? No. Is that a justifiable excuse for why she takes Derek to the end?
That makes her seem weak.
I feel like that's worse.
Yeah, that sounds worse. That sounds like you're even more of a pussy. You know, like, I mean, like, come on, like you would like I'm sure all the people in the jury would be like, well, you know, or either I tried to threaten you with my vote, or I would have threatened you with my vote if I knew it would be so easy to convince you. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, like, they would be like, well, why are you only concerned with, he has one vote? You think your game isn't good enough that the rest of us would want to vote for you? Like, clearly you don't even have confidence in your own game.
Even Doom in the chat, who has been my bane all night, is saying that would be a mistake. So that must be true.
I think it plays into the narrative that that Derek was the one playing her all along and that cared less about the relationship all along, and that he played her and got her to take him to the end when she shouldn't have. So I do agree that's probably a mistake, but an interesting thought because I hadn't thought of it before. Geraldine on Twitter wants to know, what is the single biggest game-changing move made this season? So I'll give you guys a little bit of time to think about this. All season long, what is the biggest move that was made? It's a tough question because there are a lot of moves. For me, it's kind of hard. Like in terms of the biggest impact, I think it was Erica's leaving. Of course, that was heavily aided by Canada, so it's not like I'd want to say like, oh, Kayla with the biggest move that she gets full credit for. Like the credit is a little bit iffy on that one. She definitely took the opportunity that was given to her, but it's kind of like a cop out to say like, oh, well, Canada made the biggest move all season.
Although to be fair, like I think a lot of other people given the opportunity would not have taken it and would not have taken Erica out. I feel like Kayla really did take advantage of that opportunity that was given to her and evict Eric or put Erica up. Whereas I think a lot of other people might not have done that.
I feel like I'd probably go with Hamza in his crazy HOH week because he was for sure going to target Derek and Kayla until they became have-nots. And then Derek, was that the week that Derek had the Wendy's with him? I'm thinking, I don't know if you guys remember that or not.
I think Derek had Wendy's with Hamza and managed to convince Hamza to not target Dela. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that like the season looks so different if instead of Jesse being the target that week, instead it's Derek and Kayla on the block. You know, obviously if they're both on the block, then one of them is probably going to go home. I mean, obviously there's a chance they could both stay, but early on in the season, I feel like, the other part of a showmance always gets evicted if one of them wins the veto. So Hamza, thought that was the big move until it wasn't until he said it. We talked about this ad nauseum where he said stuff and then all of a sudden it wasn't the big move anymore because it was expected. Everyone was like, oh, he's going to put up Derek and Kayla. And he's like, well, if you're expecting it, then I'm going to do something different. Like, let's look at this person over here. Oh, it was like Jesse, we'll nominate you. I mean, it was such a wacky week, but maybe it wasn't the biggest move, but it was the move that had the most consequential effect on this final three.
Yeah, I
No,
will say almost by definition, the biggest, most game-changing moves are going to be the ones that ended up giving us the result that we got. So they're going to most likely involve Derek and Kayla. You might say some of Johnny's moves were really big, but ultimately they didn't have that much impact because Johnny's not sitting here in the end. So I think the three moves that we probably want to talk about, the one, Derek saving Dela with Hamza. I think that Kayla aligning herself back in with Ali and Liv after being separated by Paris. I think that was another huge one. I think that, again, you can kind of give the Canada evicting Erica that Kayla does get some credit for, but not full credit for. And then also the trio deciding to evict Ali over Kayla. It comes down to the wire. I think we're looking at a very different season if they go the other way. Kayla, and which, again, it's been speculated if Will had voted first, then Will probably votes out Kayla. Paris asks him, "What did you do?" He says, "I voted Kayla." Paris then votes Kayla. It came down that close, and ultimately, I think is the biggest game changer here because with Kayla gone, Kayla is our most likely winner at this point. So I think that was also a huge one.
I just loved it in that moment that, and I'm not trying to come or be shady with her, but Arissa, of course, says, reminder, there's absolutely no talking during the voting, and then they're all just chatting up a storm, when they begin the voting. I love the fact that Kayla and Ali both did not give up there. I mean, they were absolutely fighting until the end. They didn't give a shit about the rules, which I totally co-sign. It's your life on the line. Like, who cares about what somebody said on the screen? Like, just get out there and campaign for your vote. I love the fact that they were just absolutely going at it up until the bitter end. Made for great television.
So this question ties into the one that we just asked. Tom Palmer wants to know, if asked, what was your best move in the final two? How should each of the final three answer that question? Another one I forgot was Derek talking Will off of the final five veto. That was a huge game changer as well. But potentially not quite as game changing as the other ones, but potentially more impressive. So in terms of Derek's move, I would say Derek's best move was talking Will off of the final five veto.
Does he know that though? I don't know if he knows that.
I don't know.
Okay.
The other one is saving Dela from Hamza. For Kayla, I would say reintegrating herself, taking all of Hamza's dirty work, the fruits of his labor on his HOH week, and aligning herself back in with Ali and Liv. I think that was her best move. And then Paris. Come back to me, Brent.
We'll talk about it tomorrow. Yeah, I think more than anything that Kayla's, I think the move that she's going to say to the jury is evicting Erica. I think she's going to give it up to Erica because it also makes her look good by saying that, because she's like, look, she was another strong female like myself, and I had to get her out of the house. I feel like it's the most obvious move as well, and it's something that's easily quantifiable to the jury. They can look at it and they go, yes, you did that. Now, I know it was aided by a twist, but you know what? It still happened in the Big Brother house, and the Big Brother house has twists. So you did that. I think that saying, reintegrating with Ali and Liv is a lot more intangible to the jury, and I don't feel like that they would necessarily look at that as a positive.
Oh yeah, I was looking at it like what was their best move, but you're right. The question was how should they answer the jury, which
okay. That's what I thought you were answering. I'm like, there's no way she's going to say that. She's going to talk about the big shiny moves.
Yes, I agree. So maybe we can talk about like both what we see as their best move and also Melissa, what do you think? Any differing opinions here?
No, I agree with what you guys said. And in regards to Paris, I think that she's going to have to somehow succinctly say that she was able to get in with all the groups in the house, and she was able to convince the other people in the house to do whatever she wanted them to do at various points. But I feel like that's going to be really hard because it's going to make people think, first of all, that their friendship with her wasn't real, which could hurt some people. Second of all, it could make them think that, okay, well, no, I did that move by myself. Why is she trying to claim credit for my move? So I feel like it's going to be really hard for Paris to explain her game. She has a great social game that she played the whole time, but it's going to be so hard for her to just tie it up in a nice bow that the jury will like.
Yeah. I mean, I think what Paris will say is she'll take credit for something that she might not have done. If she was asked this question, hopefully she's not asked that question if she wants to do well. I think the truth of it is probably like her best move. I don't think she had a singular move that she made that like brought her further. I think it was just, as we talked about in the season recap, just her survival ability, just like being able to throw anyone and everyone under the bus to save herself and make sure she looked as dumb and weak and persuadable as possible. But what would she say? I honestly don't know what she could truthfully say as a singular move.
I mean, I think she would probably need to point to the vote against Allie and the decision to keep Kayla in the house. She's going to say she needs to be results oriented and be like, look, you know, I was the one who made that call. I was the one who was the decider. You know, along with, I know, you know, Maddie was always voting to evict Allie, but, you know, I was the one who pushed it in that direction to keep Kayla in the house because I knew that would keep me safe and ensure my safety during the triple eviction. And then I made my way to the final four, won HOH, and obviously evicted Derek to take Kayla. That I knew that was my best path to get to the end to ensure my victory in Big Brother. Like, I mean, it needs to be something like that.
Yeah, she needs to talk about how she didn't have to win any competitions the whole time, and she got there just purely due to her social game. And then at the very end, when she needed to win competitions, she did.
Yeah, I think that Paris should avoid the question because I think that even if I think you're right. I think you're right, Brent, that like that's probably the best answer she could give. But I think that somebody like Johnny is like, no, that was a dumb decision. You're being results oriented. And I don't know if it would work out for her. I think if she gets asked that question, she should be like, my biggest move was never having to win a competition and always being in with the HOH. Like just generalized things. The more specific Paris gets, I think the worse it will be for her. If there's any,
no matter what she says, someone's going to be like, no, that was my move.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have one from Off Tilt who wants to know, is Kayla the player we were hoping Big Brother 19 Jessica would be? I thought that was an interesting question. Brent, you say yeah?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's not that I didn't love Big Brother 19 Jessica. I absolutely did.
It's different than what we anticipated.
Yeah, different than what we anticipated. And I mean, it's so funny. I wanted her to be more like Janelle, and in some ways she was because she let people have it. But there were times where she made moves that I felt like I was infuriated by, and I don't feel like Janelle would have made those mistakes. So even though I did love Jessica in the end, I did feel like she obviously made mistakes putting Ramsey on the block and blah, 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 blah. So I feel like she probably is more like the Jessica that we had hoped the Jessica would be when we first met her prior to the season. When I met Jessica before the season, I think me and Melissa were like fighting over her in terms of like, oh my God, she's like, you know, she's amazing. And she's great. Like she's everything we want in a Big Brother 19 contestant. And then she got in the house and she got into a showman. So we were like, and then she was with these other two showmans. We were like, you know, so I mean, I feel like that Kayla, she probably is.
Yeah, and I feel like also something different from Jessica to Kayla is that Jessica was unable to like humble herself and grovel at people's feet when she needed to, and she wasn't willing to, you know, align herself with anybody else to save her own butt. Whereas Kayla, she's willing to do whatever it takes. She's willing to align herself with whoever in order to get her further in the game. I mean, you can see that her and Derek aligned with a wide variety of people and like throughout the game. And I just know that if it came down to it and it was either her or Derek, she would be absolutely willing to let Derek go. Whereas I feel like Jessica would have done whatever it took to keep Cody around. And she even kind of was willing to sacrifice herself to make sure Cody could go further. And, you know, when Josh was trying to talk with Jessica and give her even a chance, being like, look, like, I'm giving you this opportunity to, you know, not to work with me or whatever, she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't talk to him. She refused. She was like, I just want to enjoy my last time here with Cody. And it was so disappointing because she had the opportunity to stay, but she wasn't willing to do whatever it took socially. Whereas Kayla definitely was.
All right. Final question from Gregory McBean. Once again, if somebody listening is going to be on Big Brother 20, what should be their biggest takeaway from Big Brother Canada 6? So like, what did we learn anything from the strategy from the players on Big Brother Canada 6 that a Big Brother US player should take into account heading into that season?
That's a good question.
Yeah, my answer would be probably not much, just because there are a lot of differences between the games. I think that Big Brother Canada competitions matter a lot more than Big Brother US. So if you're like, oh, I'll just go in and be a comp beast like Johnny
No.
or Derek or Kayla, that's not going to work out for you in Big Brother US. So don't take that on as a lesson. Brent, do you have any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it reaffirms what we already know, which is don't win a bunch of comps during the first half of the game. Save your comp winning ability to the second half of the game. I don't want to say go to sleep, but in some ways I do feel like this final three went to sleep in some ways during the first half of the game, where they just tried to stay under the radar. They didn't get involved in any drama. They weren't out there winning competitions. And then eventually they were able to pick up the pace, once the second half of the game rolled around after the first double eviction.
Yeah, I think something important to take from it is that the whole be afraid to find new alliances.
Sorry, go back a couple sentences. Yeah,
I said the biggest takeaway that I would give from this season is what we were talking about earlier with the fluidity. Don't be afraid to create new alliances. Don't be afraid to align yourself with the other side of the house. Don't be afraid to go with different people. You don't need to stick with the people that you started with. I think that that's the best part that I've seen in this game, is that everyone's willing to go with whatever it takes. There were so many different groupings of people, and they just found whatever would work for them that week or in that moment. And I think that's something to take into account. I'm not saying be a floater. Although that does work, but I think that if you find yourself in a position where somebody's on the block and they're about to go home and they come to you and they're like, you're my only hope, and you can get it turned around in their favor, do it, because they will be loyal to you, and it would change up the game to do something different and to align yourself with someone new. I just think that people close themselves off to other people way too often, and you never know when you're going to need them.
Yeah, I think that ultimately what we saw was the more aggressive you were on this season, the more aggressively you were targeted. So whether that meant that you were winning a lot of competitions like Erica, like Johnny, or it meant that you were aggressive socially like Veronica, that you were going to, or even theoretically Ryan to some extent, that you were going to be targeted. However, you also can't be too wallflowery. I think we saw Ryan be targeted because he was aggressive at first, and then he was too non-aggressive. And we saw Marin being targeted because he was just kind of there. You need to you need to strike that middle ground, try to not win as many competitions as possible, try to be included in as many groups as possible. And that's really the most that you can do in terms of just keeping the target off your back. This season really was the story of who's putting a target on their back next, because you're going to be the next one in trouble.
Right. Also, don't make big moves just for the sake of making big moves. Like, make a big move because it's strategic and it helps you. Make a big move that benefits you. Don't just make a move for TV. Don't make a move because it'd be flashy. Because you saw that most of the time when people would make those flashy moves, it didn't work out well for them. And they ended up, doing something that ended up hurting their game.
All right, so there we go. That is our roundtable. There was a question from Stacked in the chat earlier. Where can you find the secret Hitler streams? You can currently find the ones we have done on my YouTube channel, and then I'm sure maybe as early as this weekend we might get started on some more on my Twitch page, Taran Armstrong on Twitch. I'm trying to do more and more there, so check it out. We'll hit the follow button. You'll get email notifications. It'll tell you what we're doing. Secret Hitler. I've played some God of War. We'll do some other stuff. It'll be fun. Check that out. But do we have any final thoughts for the season as a whole? I'll give you a second to think about it. Chat, let us know if you guys have a hashtag. That would be wonderful as well. Melissa, any final thoughts for the season?
Just that I've had such a good time covering it. There's been so many different people that I've been rooting for, when usually there's really just maybe one or maybe two people. But in this situation, throughout the whole season, I've had various people that I've loved watching, that I've loved rooting for. And it's just been so fun to cover. And I've had such a great time.
Yeah, I think that they almost got it right this season. It's a really wonderful season of Big Brother. I feel like it's 70-30 in terms of super fan strategists and 30% crazy nut jobs who we like to watch, like Veronica and Hamza. I feel like they need to lean just a little bit more in that direction. So maybe more like 60-40 is the right mix, but it was close, and I really enjoyed the season as well.
And also, I like that the people are there to play and aren't there for Instagram followers for the most part.
Yeah, this season kind of felt like the parts that they do well in Big Brother competing with the parts that they don't do well, and almost like despite itself, but also because of itself, it succeeded and also failed. Very, very much a strange season in that sense. I'm getting a lot of stock market crash hashtags. I think we've already kind of done one of those for the.
We already had the crash last time.
Yeah, so we need something a little more variety here. But make sure you check out the Taran show this week. I talked to a personal trainer named Mike Vacanti. He helped out the Staple brothers, who are good friends with Kevin Martin. They had a bet going, the Ultimate Sweat bet. They had to get to the same weight after just 1 year, starting at over 300 pounds, and the other brother was 130. Crazy story. This guy helped them do it. He's also my trainer. He's also been the trainer for Gary Vee. He has a lot of interesting stories to tell, and we also talked a lot about fitness. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, check out the Taran show this week. I thought it was a lot of fun.
And he's hot too, so there's that.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. By the way, does he live in, when you say he's your trainer, is he living like where you live, or does he like
in New York? So he does online training.
Okay.
He'll help you out with like macros and all that stuff. We did hang out in Reno though, and did a workout in person, which was very fun. But tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, I will be live with Brent Walgama. We are going to go over Paris's game. Some more.
What? I have to get up? What?
Yes.
This must be a mistake.
some more supersized end of the season content. I hope you guys are enjoying this stuff. We're going into a lot of detail. It's a lot of fun for me. I think it's a lot of fun for these guys as well. Hopefully it's fun for you guys. I think it's the end of the season. We deserve some extra coverage. So hopefully you're enjoying it. We're going to go over Paris's game from start to finish, and then Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, we're going to go over Kayla's game from start to finish, and that will be a lot of fun.
By the way, yes, I just really quickly, I've been throwing shade on the fact that they were going on for 2 hours earlier today. Obviously, I'm going to talk for a while about Paris tomorrow, so I don't mean I'm not intentionally throwing shade. I was only throwing shade because I needed to talk to Taran, and I just assumed it would be like a 30-45 minute podcast, and so I was ready to talk to test my mic, and then of course it went on for 2 hours, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to go to bed for a while. But I'm really psyched to talk about Paris tomorrow, and I will spill the tea on Paris tomorrow, even though we will talk about her game, but I'm going to keep it real, even though I am a Paris fan. I think if you're a true fan of somebody, you can see both sides of them. And, I can't wait to talk to Paris coming out of the house, but I'll also tell her that you're kind of a bitch to Maddie during Final Five, and you might want to rethink that behavior. So we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, and we'll also talk about why she might win if she wins the game, and why she might lose if she loses the game, and why that would have happened. And then, of course, Kayla on Thursday, and then Thursday night, the three of us will be live after the finale of Big Brother Canada 6, and we will recap everything. We'll go over what we saw on the finale. Again, make sure if you don't want spoilers, which you really shouldn't, stay off of Twitter.
You really shouldn't.
Just don't even go on Twitter that day. Just leave it turned off. You don't want to be spoiled, especially if it's going to be a result that you don't want. Then you're gonna have to sit through a 2-hour show knowing that it's a bad outcome for you. So
yes, that happened to me. When did? Oh, it was the Pax brothers. Yeah, I had to sit through that crap. Oh my god.
We will hopefully have the interviews with the final three after the fact, after the finale. So check that out as well. And I think that's it. Brent, you've got RuPaul still going on.
Yeah, still talking about RuPaul's Drag Race. We're down to the final 7, and can't wait to see who gets to the final 4 and the mega lip sync extravaganza at the end.
All right. And of course, you can check out my Ninja versus Ninja coverage with Lita. I'll be recording the two wildcard episodes tomorrow morning. It's been a really fun season. If you have any interest, I really highly recommend it. The episodes go by fast. It's fun to watch. So check that out as well. I'm seeing maybe like hashtag all in. That's not a bad one.
I saw earlier hashtag anyone can win, because any one of us can win and any one of them can win.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Hashtag anyone can win. All right. Thank you guys so much. This has been such a fun season of Roundtable podcasts. The Stock Watch was a lot of fun to do. I really enjoyed this very supersized episode of the Roundtable. So much detail, so many predictions. I was nerding out. I think Bill in the chat was like, I just realized I'm a dork because I'm just loving this. And I am too. I think we all are, Bill. So thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Armstrong Taran. Brent is at One Lucky Gay. Melissa is at It's Melissa with 3 A's. And for Brent and Melissa, I am Taran Armstrong. Hashtag anyone can win. We'll see you next time.